Ash Heath opens his eyes in a holy hall. Four glowing orbs, angelic beings bowing, power flowing into him. For a moment, he believes he's been chosen. Then reality snaps. Hunters crash the ritual, angels twist into horrors, and the chosen one, actually meant to be there, throws him in chains. Ash has no memories, yet he's suddenly accused of leading a cult, kidnapping, and murder. Crimes this body committed, not him. Dragged into the city, he learns the brutal truth. Here, justice is public. The Blood Moon judgment decides fates, and every execution is broadcast. Ash gets one choice: die now, or survive death matches to earn time and points. With a prison collar locked to his neck, he discovers a glitch of hope. Aurora's Magus Manual, a game app from his past life, appears as a real system. It barely works, but it gives him a few gotcha pulls, and a sword maiden to fight beside him. Meanwhile, in this harsh world, others rise too. Sonia, a fierce provincial student, battles nightmares and earns her sword spirit through sheer grit. Every day the world proves it only rewards strength and punishes hesitation. Ash doesn't know why he was dropped into this life. Hero? Criminal? No matter what they call him, he refuses to die for someone else's sins. Nobody who spent all day binging anime and grinding games ever saw this coming. Right as he stepped into the new world, some people grabbed him, tied him up, and just started dragging him off. At first, he really believed that getting blessed by 4 angels meant he was the main guy, like he was supposed to save everyone. Right then, the actual hero showed up. He threw a chill punch. Ash got slammed right back into his normal self. As a bonus, the guy snapped some silver handcuffs on him. That's when it hit him, he'd somehow ended up as the boss of some sketchy cult. He ended up stuck with a whole mess of crimes: kidnapping, murder, robbery, you name it. A few days back, he straight up worked himself to death, but now he was wide awake in some totally unfamiliar world. Right when he opened his eyes, a huge crowd all dressed in black robes dropped to their knees in front of him. They were bowing down and mumbling prayers nonstop. Listening to them, he realized he was actually the top dog here, the strongest one around. Nobody could tell from his face, but inside he was already freaking out. On top of everything, he ended up in a new world as a guy with the same name, just missing the last part, Heath. Ash wiggled his fingers and toes, just checking if everything worked how it should. He couldn't tell it apart from the real thing. Everything about it was spot on. That got him thinking, like maybe he just stepped into some alternate version of himself. To keep things clear in his head, he started calling the guy who actually owned this body Heath. Ash was pretty let down when he realized Heath didn't leave him the one thing that actually mattered: his memories. Ash was totally lost on what to do next. Those guys in black robes downstairs were acting chill for now, maybe even showing some respect, but he knew if he messed up, they'd probably call him out in a second. Out of nowhere, the whole grand hall started shaking hard. One of the guys in a black robe started calling out for the Lord to show up. Out of nowhere, 4 bright orbs, each a different color, dropped down from the sky. Ash's body suddenly hit the ground, dropping to his knees before he could even react. Right after that, all 4 orbs just locked onto him and zipped over in his direction. The red orb started things off, letting him know it was some kind of boss with insane power. It promised to give him the Angel of Power, basically, a champion who's all about fighting, courage, and respect, ready to take out anyone who stands in his way. Right after that, the blue orb came through. It carried this wild energy, almost like it was showing off who's in charge of storms, rain, and snow. The orb basically handed over an angel, someone who totally gets strategy and knows how to work with change and fate. With this angel around, reaching any goal just got way easier. Then the green orb showed up. It had this steady energy, kind of like a heartbeat that never stops. It handed over the Angel of Life, who was all about staying healthy, spreading good vibes, and making sure everyone got a fair shot. With this, he could count on his strength sticking around. At last, the pink orb showed up. It was all about dreamlike freedom, kind of like letting your mind wander wherever it wants. The orb brought him the Angel of Joy, the boss when it comes to love, good times, and creativity. With that, he just got hit with a whole new level of charm. When their voices dropped off, Ash suddenly felt energy rush through him. He was locked in, mind super clear, and just felt way better all around. He couldn't help but grin. Honestly, the whole dropping into another world thing seemed totally random at first, but now it felt like he'd seriously lucked out. Now he was the guy everyone looked up to, the world's savior, rolling with 4 legendary guardians and a crew of die-hard followers. Honestly, it felt like living in the ultimate game, taking down monsters, getting stronger, saving everyone, winning over the princess, and basically hitting the top-tier life everyone dreams about. Right as he was about to finish thinking, something slammed into the ceiling up top so hard it sounded like the whole place was about to come down. Up front, one of the guys in black robes totally lost it when he spotted the blood-crazed hunters rolling up. Everyone just looked at the hero, knowing he was the only one who could actually handle them. Ash scoffed, already knowing from the name alone that these wild hunters were just easy targets, basically walking XP drops. He grabbed his sword, pulling it out fast, looking super confident. He was basically saying nobody could mess with him as long as he had his blade. It was like he was ready to take on those wild hunters and prove his strength, totally set to go first into whatever was coming. Before anyone even had a chance to react, this loud crash ripped through the hall. The people causing all the trouble weren't waiting for an invite, they were already making their entrance. Ash flashed a confident grin, totally ready to show off. He was about to prove exactly how a planned takedown goes down. Right then, all 4 angels showed up and gave him their blessing at the same time. Right then, Ash felt unstoppable, like he could split the whole world in 2 with just one swing. He started thinking about what to call his very first move in this new world. He pulled off a crescent moon slash, almost like dropping a flying thunder god move. He decided it was smarter to just chill and not make a big deal out of it. He let loose what looked like a regular sword swing. A blast of sword energy ripped out and went straight for the closest blood-mad hunter. She held the void-splitting sword and power ran through her like she just leveled up for real. Ash couldn't help but feel a little smug about it. Right then, the hunter, totally lost in the bloodlust, just laughed to himself in this way that made it clear he wasn't taking anything seriously. That was all. He grinned, kind of wild, and swung his blade. Out of nowhere, it snapped into this chain sword that stretched out a few meters, ready for action. He swung hard, sending a deep red arc slicing all the way down the hallway. Ash watched as his sword energy got eaten up right away, and his barrier basically fell apart like it was nothing. With just one hit, the whole underground hall broke wide open, the ground splitting with a loud crack that echoed everywhere. The ground under his feet just dropped out. Ash watched as his attack fell apart in seconds. He just stood there, stunned, trying to figure out how that even happened. The hit landed so hard, all four angels got sent straight back to how they looked before. The Angel of Power morphed into this brutal-looking mantis, all sharp edges and ready to attack. The one known for wisdom just broke down, ending up as a giant, gross fly. The Angel of Life didn't stand a chance either, turning into this pale, creepy maggot. But the worst had to be the Angel of Joy. He just faded away into a nasty, stinky cloud. Ash crashed straight into the wall, hitting it way harder than he expected. He shot up, chest burning like crazy. Just a rookie in this whole new world, he had no idea what he was really doing. Looking back, he couldn't believe he tried to act all bold for no reason. He ended up pulled into a war that honestly had zero to do with him. This kind of wild mess wasn't what a regular office guy like him ever signed up for. Ash just stood there, totally spaced out. The fight underground was done. The guys in black robes stood no chance. The hunters were on another level and took them out instantly. The leader moved up and introduced himself as Westminster, letting everyone know he was a ruthless hunter from the Tribunal of Sin. He started listing off some serious accusations, stuff like spreading cults, kidnapping, murder, and robberies. He reached into his bag, pulled out a scroll, and laid it out right in front of Ash. It was an arrest warrant stamped by the Tribunal of Sin from City. The guy made it clear if Ash wanted to push back, he could take it up with the branch or even send something straight to the mayor. Still, seeing Ash stand his ground, you could tell the guy was kind of impressed. He had 4 Tier 2 Chaos Trance, but none of them actually belonged to him. Still, he was bold enough to step up against a 3-winger. He handed over a set of shiny silver handcuffs, kind of like a prize for making it this far. On his first day, Ash had already done something cool for the city. That day, he ended up getting arrested. His name's Ash Heath. He doesn't remember how old he is. Amnesia has him blanking on that. As for gender, he's a dude. Race, he knew for sure he wasn't some dog. Outside the interrogation room, Amy stared at Ash through the two-way mirror. She couldn't believe how chill he looked, and it honestly got on her nerves. Her eyes narrowed as she watched him, annoyed that he acted like nothing was a big deal. One of the guys standing off to the side glanced over at the captain. He honestly thought the dude in the hot seat wasn't taking things seriously at all, and figured there was no point in even trying to question him like this. He offered to step in instead, saying he'd picked up some interrogation skills from a priest back in his school days, and even had a level 1 license to prove it. He was so confident in his skills, he honestly believed he could get this guy to admit even the most embarrassing stuff, like how he used to wet the bed. Didn't even flinch, he just told them straight up to burn the license, acting like the Human Rights Act actually meant something and wasn't just there for show. If Ash Heath stays up all night, everyone else is basically doomed. Amy was straight up mad and just annoyed at this point. She clicked her tongue, thinking about how long they'd had that memory mage around. Seriously, with the guy sitting here for so long, why hadn't anyone pulled the criminal's memories yet? Kept his voice straight up icy. He knew the memory mage wasn't showing up, dude just wasn't like the rest. He'd already seen the 4 pillar gods, and that changed everything. Amy just stopped in her tracks after hearing that. Kept going, but it wasn't just him. Nobody could remember anything. None of the cultists could get their memories back. That whole memory mess-up thing, yeah, that's what the 4 pillar god does best. About 134 years back, he got caught up in a weird cult case that was all about these 4 pillar gods. There was this memory mage who tried to dig into one of the cultists' heads, but instead the mage accidentally got pulled into the cult himself. That's why this group never really disappears. They always find a way to keep going. Amy just stood there totally thrown off. What now? There's no proof, nobody's getting grilled, and nobody remembers anything. So does that mean he just walks free, or is there something else they're planning? Stayed calm and just said that there's already a brutal way to deal with criminals this bad, so nothing extra was needed. The whole interrogation thing is just routine. The actual trial is set for 8 p.m. on the 15th, and the entire city's gonna be watching. Amy suddenly got it, and her tail gave a quick flick. She turned around and basically handed things off to him, trusting he'd handle it from here. Kept his eyes on Ash through the glass. Since the rules said interrogations had to pause after 15 minutes, Ash would get a break, and honestly, that took some pressure off. Ash stood there with a cup of water, and his hand automatically went to the spot on his chest where he'd been hurt. The wound was already gone, healed up like nothing ever happened, and it honestly caught him off guard. His heartbeat picked up, not sure what to think about it. Watched Ash closely, not saying a word. The way Ash acted, every reaction just seemed real, like he was honestly just some regular guy who lost his memory. In this world, if someone's dealing with depression, they might not get punished, but the only way to show he really lost his memories is by actually pulling them out. He decided to let it go and focus on the next arrest. Whatever happens at his trial, that's for everyone else to deal with. Ash sat in his cell and his chest just felt weighed down. He always believed he was the main guy, the one meant to step up and save everyone. Now he was basically running his own squad, acting like the boss and trying to kick off some kind of business. He was on the run, with groups of heroes chasing him down like he was just some target for them to level up on. There was no doubt they were going to end him. Yeah, the questions were chill, and he got free food and a place to crash. He started thinking, with how high-tech everything looked and how comfortable the cells were, maybe this place already got rid of the death penalty. He was just starting to hype himself up when out of nowhere, his neck started burning up. Right then, a bright screen popped up in front of his face. It said the city council wanted Ash Heath as a special guest for something called the Blood Moon Judgment, set for 8 p.m. on the 15th this month. Someone messaged him, telling him to get ready and look presentable since someone was coming to take him to the live stream spot. If he wanted out of the show, all he had to do was text back TC. As soon as Ash spotted the name, he could tell something was off. He jumped on the keyboard and punched in TC right away. He didn't even think twice and just sent it right away. Right now, he was stuck getting questioned after getting arrested. Messaging was off, so he couldn't text anyone. Ash just lost it, that last comment. He was starting to think it was just someone trying to mess with him. He just shrugged and let it go. Guess this glowing screen was pretty much their version of a phone. He thought it might be some overpowered hack since he landed here, but nah, it was just normal tech for them. He spotted something on his screen that made him pause. There it was, that app he knew all too well, Aurora's Magus Manual. He started wondering how this thing managed to end up here with him. Aurora was the company he used to work at back in his old world. He was the one running this app because his team handed him the job. Back then, he only grabbed the demo, just wanting to mess around with it for a bit. But before he even got the chance to hit play, he was already pulled straight into this new world. Now out of nowhere, the mobile game was here with him too. Somehow it just showed up on his mind's display, like it installed itself without him even doing anything. He started wondering if this was his secret power from getting thrown into a new world. Ash's heart started beating faster as the miracle fired up Aurora's Magus Manual. Suddenly, the whole screen just went blood red out of nowhere. He just stopped in his tracks, it hit him, he was still banned from the network. Right when things started to feel hopeless, the screen lit up with a loud notification. He couldn't believe it, the system just started working again. The game really started up for real. Ash jumped into the game, ready to see what it had to offer, but pretty much nothing worked except the pulls in the shop where you spend real money. He poked one just to see what would happen. Just like he expected, all it did was pull up the recharge screen. Ash got pissed and smashed the glowing screen on the floor. He couldn't believe they dropped a cash shop into a demo that was just for testing. It honestly felt like they were trying to take back the money they'd just paid them. He pulled up a new menu, paused for a sec, and just lost it. For real, even the first summon wasn't free. Whoever made this game really went wild with the cash grabs. He stopped for a sec. Actually, his company already handled it, so he just moved on. Right then, the screen on the floor lit up and made a couple of sounds. It said the system was back and that he'd logged in. He got a source crystal as a reward. For his first bonus, he scored a 10-pull voucher for operators. Every time he used up all 10 pulls, he was sure to get at least one operator locked in. Ash tilted his head thinking about these operators. He wondered if they'd really have his back in a fight. He didn't overthink it, though, might as well give it a try. He was just about to tap the summon button, but then a random thought popped into his head and he just stopped, hand hovering in the air. He put his hands together and closed his eyes, getting serious as he sent out a quiet prayer to the spirits, hoping they were actually listening. He hoped Mother Earth would have his back. He just said a quick prayer to God. Ash blew on his fingertips, hoping it'd boost his luck. He didn't waste any time and just tapped the recruit button without hesitating. He was grinding hard, hoping he'd score an operator that could actually turn things around for him. He ended up with 2 stamina potions and 2 EXP potions. Ash checked out his rewards: a sword maiden who looked totally wild, a rookie-level combat card, and a wooden training sword. His eyes locked in on the screen. Finally, he managed to score something solid. He jumped straight into the sword maiden stats page, not wasting any time. He scrolled through the wall of text, kind of unimpressed. This was supposed to be Mad Blade. All he saw was a regular pretty girl, nothing wild or crazy about her. He started to wonder if there was anything special coming up or if the hype was just fake. He frowned and snapped the screen shut, frustrated. He was cool with being stuck as a character, but not being able to bring her out into real life to back him up just made it feel pointless. He was about to end up on the execution block in a couple days, just another number for some executioner trying to hit his goals. Seriously, they expected him to waste his last days logging in every day just to boost stats for their garbage games. Most games let you jump right into the action, but here, your first unit just sits there doing nothing. That's not exactly getting anyone hyped. Honestly, with choices like this, it kind of feels like anyone could have been the main developer. While he was going off, he suddenly spotted a tiny red dot hanging out on the operator management tab. His OCD just switched on, so he went ahead and tapped it right away. He was caught off guard when he noticed no one else around except the Sword Maiden. He was running with another operator, /Apocalypse, also known as. He stared at the guy in front of him. It was wild, because this dude was basically his twin, rocking the same clothes he'd had on earlier. He noticed a 30% EXP boost showing up on the Sword Maiden's profile. He figured that if he could level up the Sword Maiden in the game, he'd actually get stronger in real life. It might be the only shot he had at breaking out of prison. He got lucky and grabbed a ton of training gear just now. Ash thought it was wild how this training system actually cared about him. Turns out when an operator is in a good mood, their training just goes way smoother. He let out a deep breath. Honestly, with everything going on, he felt like he was already done for. Dealing with a 2D girl's attitude wasn't exactly on his to-do list right now. Wasted no time and put together a whole week of training for the Mad Blade Sword Maiden. He told her to put in the effort and prove herself. Right then, the system threw up a prompt. It asked if he wanted to turn on his /Apocalypse skill and officially add the Mad Blade Sword Maiden to his Magus manual. Once he did this, there was no going back. Ash didn't even pause before saying yes, and right away, lines of code started racing across the bright screen. Looks like that's all said. He barely noticed when his eyelids started to droop, and just like that, he was out cold. 3 hours away from where Ash was, stuff was happening somewhere else. She crashed early that night, calling it after her usual grind. She woke up and realized she was actually inside her own dream. She found herself standing on this tiny island she'd never seen before. She glanced over her shoulder to see what was going on behind her. There was a dead body lying there, a sword shoved right through its chest. What stood out was how the body looked untouched, like it hadn't started rotting at all. She grabbed some seawater with her hand and gave it a taste. He realized it was all just a dream, and honestly, that was kind of a relief. She couldn't figure out why her dream showed her a dead body she didn't even recognize. She moved in a bit, trying to see things more clearly. She pulled the sword out of the chest and couldn't help but catch her breath. The blade looked insane, like it was meant for her, no question. She thought the body would just drop, but then it started moving. She jumped and grabbed her sword hard, ready for whatever was coming her way. He goes by, some people know him as /Apocalypse, but honestly just sounds cooler. Even though the name gives off major boss vibes, he's not here to mess with anyone. He stopped for a second, eyes going cold. He made it clear he was about to end things for real. She squared up, ready for anything. Crouched down, hand gripping his sword, looking like he was ready for anything. He made it clear the only way out in the next 3 days was to beat him. If not, you were stuck here for the whole 72 hours, no way around it. He didn't wait for her to say anything. His blade was already coming at her. She found herself right back where she started, barely realizing how fast it happened. She reached for her neck, kind of confused and trying to figure out what just went down. It honestly felt like someone had sliced her neck, but she started wondering if she was just stuck in some weird dream. Just smirked, looking like he knew something no one else did. For him, the only thing that really set dreams and reality apart was this. Reality's something everyone builds together, but dreams, those are like little cages you put yourself in. His break barely lasted. 10 seconds went by in a flash, and it was already time to get back at it. Out of nowhere, she snapped right back to where she started, like someone hit reset on her game. Just shot a quick smirk. He was basically telling the guy to grip his sword tight if he wanted any chance of going out with a little pride. Wasn't convinced at all. She turned fast and just jumped right into the water. She looked out over the water, thinking there's no way anyone could just slice the ocean in two. His voice came through steady and sharp. He let him know that dipping out was pointless and kinda embarrassing. Just stopped in her tracks. She realized she actually didn't know how to swim. That hit her out of nowhere. He knew he was dreaming, but for some reason it felt like he couldn't breathe at all. As soon as she came up, she was catching her breath. Just launched his sword, zero hesitation. Still held on to hope, thinking she could sneak a quick break without getting caught. She figured if she just stepped out for a second, he probably wouldn't even realize she was gone. Water splashed everywhere. She suddenly got pulled straight back to where she started, like the game just reset her without warning. She reached up and felt her chin, yep, still there. So last time he really did slice it off. She shot in Watcher a look that could cut right through him. He just shot a look that said he wasn't impressed. He couldn't believe anyone would actually think he'd show up without a weapon, especially after everything that went down. Even now, he saw they still didn't get it. Lost it, she just shut down the Watcher, thinking he was being totally unfair. Right when he figured she was about to get serious and actually throw down. She dropped down and grabbed his leg, holding on tight, was ready to follow him, no questions asked. He just wanted it all to end. He was tired and ready to give in, willing to do whatever it took if it meant the stress would finally stop. Smirked, his smile taking on a twisted edge. He looked ready for anything. His cheeks turned red and she gave a quick nod. He nodded, ready for the challenge, and waited for the order to take him down. Just like that, she found herself right back at square one. Felt straight up embarrassed and slammed her foot on the ground. She couldn't believe it, like what was even the point? She hadn't messed with anyone, so why was someone coming after her when she was just minding her own business? Some people out there are just straight up awful. If he ever wanted to go after the bad guys, he'd have no problem finding a list. He knew some high up people who acted all righteous but were pretty fake behind the scenes, and if someone wanted a real villain, he could point them out. Honestly, he was just a regular college guy, nothing special, so all this attention felt like way too much. Just shrugged, her face saying she'd given up. She seemed ready to do whatever was asked, like she was used to getting stepped on and just going along with whatever happened. They stared him down, their eyes squinting like they were trying to figure him out. They seemed to wonder if he'd ever crossed them before, like they couldn't trust he was in the clear. Just like that, found herself right back where she started. She started thinking about it. If she could just make it through the next 72 hours, she'd finally be out of this wild dream. Watcher answered, pointing out there was no clock around. 72 hours might not seem like much when you think about a whole lifetime, but stuck in death, those hours basically feel endless. The real question was if anyone could actually handle dying nonstop for that long. He started thinking hard about what was really true. Even if he managed to get out tonight, he knew tomorrow would just bring the same problems. It hit him that this wasn't just a one-time thing, this could keep happening over and over. He moved back, getting his sword ready to put away. After what he's been through, he knew better than to just hope for something wild to happen. Didn't come back to life. She lifted her sword just in time and stopped his attack. She realized she had no other options, so she called out for the End Watcher. One moment she was moving forward, and then out of nowhere she got snapped straight back to where she started. She shut her eyes and started going over everything from their fights, trying to piece it all together. That's when it clicked. Didn't actually have any crazy abilities. Even when it came down to strength, he wasn't stronger than her. She'd always heard that when a swordsman leveled all the way up, just watching them swing was enough to give you chills. Just the way they stood on the hill could make anyone weaker feel like backing down. Compared to those absolute legends, Watcher was just a really talented swordsman, but when she noticed how his wounds healed up right away, it caught her off guard. Looked at the scene and couldn't help but smirk, so this was actually going to be a legit one-on-one. As soon as her quick 10-second break was up, jumped right back in and threw the first punch. She'd been watching for a while and caught on to his habit. Right at the start of every fight, he always grabbed his sword handle like he was charging up for something big. Her power was wild, but if she made the first move, his whole plan would fall flat. He pushed on, blocking every hit and throwing out counter moves nonstop. She finally caught something off in the way he was guarding himself. Almost missed it, dodging the sword at the last second before it could take him out. He didn't waste a second and went straight for her weak side, catching her off guard. Just scoffed, not even giving him the time of day. Her feet moved in this weird, smooth way, almost like she was gliding across the floor. He dodged the hit like it was nothing, smooth and quick. Nobody saw that one coming, not him or Watcher. He'd been waiting for this chance the whole time. She moved back and got ready to put her sword away. He just smirked, thinking that after getting knocked out this many times, even a pig would caught onto his tricks by now. Jumped in fast, spun around, and cut through like she'd done it 1,000 times. She was all in, making sure to grab her reed and eye as she went, not leaving anything behind. The blade sliced straight through his chest. 1 second the wound was there, and the next, it completely disappeared. Not really sure what to expect, wondered if that meant she actually beat him. He saw her just stay cool and give her answer without even flinching. For a second her face totally relaxed, but then he pointed out that was just him using one sword. He pulled out his second sword and held both in front of him, ready to go. The first part was done, now it was time for round 2. This time he doesn't even get a quick break. Blinked awake, still half out of it, as someone called her name. She realized it was time for an early class and she probably needed to get moving. She sat up, rubbing her temples, and realized was the only one still in the dorm. She checked the time, it was 7:30. She usually woke up early and spent a solid hour doing her makeup, but today she just seemed off. Looked tired, like she barely slept, and thought she must had a nightmare. Just shrugged it off, nightmares never stick around long anyway. She knew she had to get moving or she'd end up losing points for being late to class. She walked out of the room, just paused for a sec, then stood up. She got through washing up and putting on her makeup all in one smooth go. Sitting in class, she couldn't stop thinking about what happened last night. Nightmares are supposed to disappear after you wake up, right? But for some reason, he could remember every detail like it was still happening. She couldn't stop thinking about the moment she hit the End Watcher with both blades. That scene kept playing in her head like a highlight reel. Her trial was finally over. His last words really got to. Even though the trial was done, it felt like things were just getting started for her. It didn't sound like good news at all. His face turned serious. She wasn't about to let Apocalypse End Watcher mess with her life again, not when she'd finally started to get things together. Down on the bottom floor of the prison, there was this decked-out suite that felt nothing like a regular cell. Ash sat up, rubbing his forehead. He was more wiped out than before, like he'd just gone a few rounds in the ring. Sleeping was supposed to help, but honestly he felt worse, like someone had just body slammed him in his sleep. He noticed that annoying red dot pop up again on his game screen. He just couldn't leave it alone. His brain needed to clear it right away. He just went for it and tapped it right away. The sword maiden showed up on the screen, barely able to hide how hyped she was. She looked straight up pumped like she just got some good news. The system let him know he cleared the trial, and now he was even with the sword maiden than before. Ash blinked, kind of surprised. He hadn't realized that sending her into a trial would actually level up their bond. Turns out that's really how it works. He flashed a confident grin, thinking how smart it was to get things sorted ahead of time. All he had to do now was chill, trust the plan, and let Sword Maiden keep grinding. Right then in class, suddenly got this weird feeling in her chest. She didn't even flinch when the teacher called on her. She just explained it straight up. Before a Magus can get into the Void Realm, they gotta summon a spirit first. Without that spirit, there's no way to open the gate and actually step inside. Grew up way out in one of the Star Nation's most broken far-off villages. So seeing her end up at a top-tier academy where all the rich and famous kids go, that's wild. This all happened because of the miracle bracelet the government handed out. She powered through every basic course in the bracelet, making it all the way to university, the first from her to pull that off in 2 decades. When she showed up for the first time, a bunch of people just stared her down and laughed behind her back. She picked up makeup and fashion fast, like she'd been doing it forever. In just a month, she dropped her thick country accent and stayed locked in on her schoolwork the whole time. She showed up at pretty much every event on campus. She kept getting picked to host, and every time more people started noticing her. It wasn't long before everyone realized she was becoming famous. He quickly became everyone's top pick to be the 67th. She always held on to this one idea. If everyone else out there could be happy, then she figured there had to be a way for her to get there too. Once class ended, rushed straight for the school gate. She saw her mom waiting outside, just standing there in the burning sun. Stepped outside and noticed her mom just hanging around in the sun, not even trying to find any shade. Her mom just gave her a gentle smile, letting know she stayed out there so could spot her right away. Had to remind him again he apologized, saying he messed up once more. Took her mom's hand and started walking toward the train. She was thinking since her mom made it all the way to, she should definitely show her the capital, but her mom wasn't really interested. She just pointed out that she'd seen a park close by when she got here, so there was no point spending extra cash. Just tuned her out and nudged her onto the train, not making a big deal out of it. She switched up her name since, in this place, even someone just serving tables could be called. When first showed up in the spotless streets and all those tall buildings really caught her off guard. The city was full of chill, respectful people, and everywhere you looked, huge LED screens were always running ads nonstop. From that point on, she decided that if things ever got that serious, she'd want it to happen right here in this city. He only made it this far because his mom had his back the whole way. Her dad was always wasted and angry, barely holding it together, and ended up drinking himself to death before she even grew up. His mom handled everything by herself, working nonstop so could just chill and focus on school. Back in her village, almost everyone her age spent their days grinding away in factories. When night rolled around, they'd just chill and watch whatever was on Meteor Channel, since that was literally the only thing they could get. They just stayed in that small town, going through the same routines every day, never really thinking about leaving or trying something new. Now had her scholarship lined up, and was making some extra cash from her part-time job. She was set on making sure her mom got to really experience all the good things the city had to offer. Before he knew it, the day was over and they had to go their separate ways. His return ticket was already synced up with his bracelet, so all he had to do was scan it at the gate. She watched her mom getting ready to head out, just staring at her from behind. Hesitated for a second, not really wanting to go through with it. She sprinted over to her mom, not wasting any time. She really wanted her to stay a bit longer since she didn't have class the next day. Hanging out together sounded way better than being alone. His mom turned around with a warm smile and grabbed her hand. He knew this was his moment. No matter what went down, he could always count on a hot meal waiting for him at home. The big city just had too much going on. Honestly, it felt way better to chill and keep things simple back where he came from. She handed a small pouch, sneaking it into her palm like it was no big deal. Inside, there was some cash, not a lot, but enough that noticed. She said she didn't need it and wanted to keep it. She made her way to the train, not looking back. She wasn't stressing about herself. She knew if something went down, the neighbors had her covered. He just wanted letters in return and told him to hang on to his cash instead of sending it. The post office could easily mess things up and lose the money. Slid the pouch into her bag and let out a deep breath. She totally got what her mom meant. Big cities really don't play around. Out of nowhere, she grabbed the pickpocket's wrist and twisted it hard, snapping it clean. She dipped out of the station, leaving him just standing there, completely caught off guard. Looked out at the busy streets and couldn't help but smirk. That's just how she is, never simple, always a bit hard to figure out. That night, got back to campus late and found the main gate closed. She rushed over to the guard to let him know she'd been stuck because of a traffic accident. Some tram had held her up for more than 30 minutes. He sprinted all the way back, heart pounding. He was seriously worried. Getting caught being late 3 times meant he'd have to face the Thorns punishment, and 3 strikes, that was straight up expulsion. After she spoke up, sounding pretty desperate, the guard finally finally gave in, unlocked the gate, and let her through. Always knew being good-looking could get her certain perks, but after she got to, she noticed real quick, looks mattered way more here than anywhere else. Life in her village was tough and nobody really cared about looks, but in the city, things were totally different. People actually went out of their way to help her just because she was good-looking. She really appreciated the Star Law Lord for turning the Star Nation into such a chill, high-class place. Because of that, she finally got a shot to hang with the top crowd. If she'd grown up somewhere wild, she probably would have been grabbed ages ago and treated like some random guy's prize. She gave a quick nod to her mom, kind of grateful. If she'd been outside working nonstop since she was a kid, all that sun and hard labor would taken its toll. She definitely wouldn't look the way she does now. She walked down the hall and caught some voices coming from her room before she even got to the door. It's already after 7, so that stray probably dipped for good tonight. Guess she finally stopped pretending. Now she's out there living it up with some rich dude. Paused at the doorway, realizing this was exactly when the usual roommate drama and all the post-breakup gossip would start up. Nobody ever saw her hanging around in class chatting up the guys. She was just some country girl, honestly. Besides her looks, there wasn't really anything special about her. Mentioned seeing dip out of campus around noon, probably to meet up with some random lady. He figured that was her mom. Honestly, he just thought like mother, like daughter, both not worth much in his eyes. Just swung the door wide open right in the middle of everyone talking. Both girls inside almost leapt out of their seats. One of them was his roommate, was always hanging around. Out of everyone, those two bumped heads with her the most. Was known around town as the merchant's daughter, and she never missed a chance to act like she was better than. She'd always show off her style and throw shade at just because didn't come from money. No matter what tried, every time she and showed up together, way more guys would start paying attention to. She just had this energy that made her stand out more than every single time. When landed the gig as the host for a campus event, stopped pretending to be chill. From that point, she just started flexing her cash everywhere. He was always setting up hangouts for the water arts crew, throwing down cash for some pretty nice spots, but he never included. After that, more dudes started going after, but honestly, the guys she liked were kind of questionable. She said she finally caught feelings for that senior guy. He just bumped into for a quick second. Right away, some guy totally caught feelings for her and just straight up told her how he felt. Didn't even think twice, she just shut him down instantly. Honestly, if a random dog wouldn't bother with him, there's no way ever would. She isn't looking for love right now. She's locked in on winning and nothing's pulling her away from this place. She grew up in the countryside and only got in by passing the test. Doing everything by herself here would probably take her years. She's planning to meet the right guy and level up her status fast. She knows exactly what she wants. She's aiming to master water magic, no distractions. She already checked the stats. More than half the noble wives out there have water magic. If the husband's got magic too, that number goes way up, like over 70%. Basically, being a water mage is a huge win if you're trying to lock down a noble match. University might not be #1, but when it comes to teaching sword, water, and wind magic, they're seriously up there. He could finish any of those 3 tracks down the line. His mom was a grad, plus she had water mega skills. He knew right away she was exactly the type of daughter-in-law the family wanted. Most water magi end up as healers since their recovery spells are pretty clutch. Most wind magi end up as weather magi, spending their days outside dealing with all kinds of tough weather. Sword magi usually have a lot of muscle, and honestly girls don't really vibe with that. Goals are set in stone. She needs to call her first water spirit before next year's up, and if things go right, she wants to unlock that silver wing and hit 1 wing rank before she graduates. She set her sights on sneaking into one of Truth Magus University events. If she could pull this off, it'd be her best shot at grabbing the attention of a noble heir. Truth University wasn't just the best magic school out there, it was where all the big names and top-tier kids in the star realm ended up. If you wanted to meet someone important, that was the place. Figured her future boyfriend would come from there. Compared to those guys, the dudes that didn't even register. If everything played out right, she'd end up marrying into a rich, high-status family. She made the most of her husband's hookups to stack her own cash. Even after they split, she had plenty left to keep her head up, flex a little confidence, and bring her mom over to live like royalty. Zoned out totally into her own world when out of nowhere, someone's icy voice snapped her back. Dude said she had to get back to sword training. It was the end observer. His voice came out cold, not messing around. If he were in that spot, he'd probably check out how everyone else was handling the situation first. He just had to think about talking and the message would get through. Looked around the room. None of the other girls in the dorm seemed to realize he was even there. Out of nowhere, she felt this cold rush go through her. She couldn't help but wonder who this person really was. He's the last one left watching everything go down. Most people just call him the observer. Seeing how forgetful some people are already, he thinks maybe they should chill out a bit and stop getting sidetracked by random stuff. He kept his cool and let the sword maiden know he wasn't there to cause problems. He just felt like a shadow of who he used to be, not even sure he counted as a whole person these days. He cut off the small talk and got straight to the point, ready to focus on what needed to get done. The end watcher just pulled a potion out of nowhere like magic. He handed it over, making it clear this was the next move, time to drink up. Didn't even hesitate, she just shook her head right away. There was no chance she was letting that happen. He moved fast, dumping it out before she even realized what was going on. The liquid rushed right into her system, hitting her all at once. The End Watcher pulled out a wooden sword and pointed it at her, like he was inviting her to train. It was almost like he knew she suddenly wanted to try sword fighting. Grit her teeth, trying hard to fight off this weird feeling that suddenly hit her. She stood her ground and gave a straight-up no. She couldn't hold back anymore. Grabbing the wooden sword, she stepped out of her dorm room, ready for whatever was next. Inside the sword training hall was grinding through her drills. She was already out of breath, totally wiped out. She checked how far she'd gotten and grinned. She was right there, about to reach the 9th ring. If she kept grinding like this, she'd hit the 10th ring before the month was up and finally unlock her blade spirit. Right then, walked into the hall holding a wooden sword. Everyone instantly looked right at her. Out of nowhere, someone noticed him and pointed out he didn't fit in, saying he's supposed to be a water type. Didn't say a word, she just stepped up and drove her sword right into the target dummy. Squinted, sizing her up. Her main hand looked shaky, the other one even weaker, and her stance was all over the place. She moved slow, like she hadn't trained enough. For someone trying to become a legit and call on spirits, her body needed to be way tougher, honestly, even tougher than most guys out there. To handle this, you gotta toughen up your hands, build some serious muscle in your arms and legs, and get your core strong. Had to decide if she was down for all that. She tossed in a sneaky comment, saying her chances with guys were basically dropping. Was this really all about some dude? She started to wonder if she was catching feelings. Was a first year with some serious skills. Everyone knew he was a sword prodigy. He had the kind of family name that turned heads since his dad was basically a big deal on the Starlight Council. Most people figured would be at Truth University, the most elite school around, but instead he rolled up at university. His dad, the Duke of, ran the top steel factory in the country and pretty much had his hands in everything, military stuff, business deals, even politics. People saw him as one of the biggest power players around. Everyone knew that dude was a player. He'd show up at the training grounds every day for 5 days straight, and somehow a different girl would pull up looking for him each time. Plus, people kept saying he wasn't exactly safe to be around. Paused for a second, he figured if this actually got someone hyped about sword fighting, then maybe it wasn't such a bad thing after all. He's got another buddy who's really into sword fighting too. She spotted something wild. Her hand was already right at the edge of the first ring. It hadn't even been that long. Was secretly grinding before this. When you really watched her, it was clear she was still rough with every move. Each swing took everything out of her, sweat pouring down non-stop. Even so, every hit landed exactly the way the sword manual said it should. She was running out of steam fast. If she kept going like this, she'd probably drop any minute now. Training like this just wasn't gonna work. Felt a cold rush go through her. She'd already given this a shot before. Last time she managed 256 swings in just 11 minutes. People started getting more and more surprised as the seconds kept ticking by. It had already been 96 minutes. At this point, everyone was trying to guess how many swings he'd racked up. There was this person who'd been keeping count from the beginning. She was at 1,700 swings when her sword finally reached the 7th ring. He zoned out for a while, but now she's sitting at about 2,400 swings. Right then came through the door she was senior plus his girlfriend. She figured all that noise had to be from. For a second she wondered if he finally pulled off summoning his spirit. She was already running through her options, wondering if they should hit up club, chill at Golden Harbor Bar, or just bounce back to his place to hang out for real. She didn't expect it but was just standing there checking things out too. He started sweating, his eyes locked in on, not looking anywhere else. Came over, noticing everyone glued to something. She could tell the vibe got weird and wanted to know what had everyone's attention. Kept his voice down, kind of surprised he never noticed someone that good looking in the swordsmanship department before. Kept her cool, but inside she was kind of annoyed. The other girl acted like she wasn't wearing any makeup, but it was obvious she had that perfect first crush look going. Like she knew exactly how to get every guy's attention without even trying. She had that look, and honestly the only guy she could be after was. There was zero chance she was going for anyone else's dude. Slid her arm around and flashed a grin. She clocked right away that everyone was focused on her training, and it was probably just because she looked good doing it. Broke it down easy. About 90 minutes back, she barely knew which way to hold a sword. She wasn't even in the sword class, just starting out and totally clueless with weapons. Now she can slice straight through the 9th ring in just one hit. Sighs went wide. There's no way this is real. She had to be faking it. He'd been grinding for months, putting in the work, and even then, with decent skills, he barely made it to the 2nd ring. Was honestly stunned. He'd been watching the whole time, expecting her to mess up eventually. But after an hour and a half, his jealousy just faded, and he started to actually respect how hard she was going. He was being way more humble and real than usual, which totally threw off. Never respected his dad or his brother, so seeing him just sit there, focused on a girl for over an hour and not even getting bored was wild. For this was a serious red flag. The hunter didn't slow down once during the whole 90 minutes. She just kept grinding, never even stopping to catch her breath. Practicing for just a few minutes would have most people tapping out and needing a break. Even who everyone called a genius could only keep it going for around 3 hours, and that was with plenty of downtime to chill in between. It made sense now why these guys, who just went hard in the gym without any real plan, got completely wiped out. Felt her heart drop all the way down. She was the cool, smart upperclassman who just pulled off an 80 on the test. Tried to keep his cool, but deep down everything felt different. Right then, the one everyone called a sword genius showed up. Her looks were at the max, like a straight-up 150 out of 100. She pretty much had it all. He knew he was done for. His blade landed right in the middle, scoring her a perfect 10. Nobody moved, the whole place just went quiet, like everyone got totally caught off guard. Snapped back to reality, suddenly aware of what just happened. She nailed a perfect hit. At this point, even if she didn't make another move, she knew she could tap into everything she'd learned about the realm when the time was right. She could call up a sword spirit, step straight into the realm, and level up to a winged mage. She always dreamed of a life where she didn't have to stress about food or cash. Now it actually seemed like that might happen for real. At university, making it as a mage wasn't easy. Only about half the students actually made it to graduation, but the ones who did, especially those winged ether mages, were set for some pretty awesome futures. His eyes locked in, narrowing as soon as she picked up on the observer's voice. She snapped her eyes over to right away. Something weird popped up. There was this empty potion bottle just hovering by his shoulder, but she was the only one who could actually see it. Right after that, the observer showed up behind, just chilling in the shadows. His vibe was straight up icy, not really caring about anything. He let Sword Maiden know that she wasn't done yet, she still had to take down. His expression turned cold. She called out the observer for taking advantage of her. The observer didn't even flinch. Honestly, he just laid it out straight. He was setting up a fight, and the toughest guy around was him, that was it. Titles and status didn't mean anything to the observer, it was all about strength. He couldn't help but crack a sly smile. If the guy's actually a noble, that just makes this whole thing more fun. Seeing nobles take an L always hits different. If he pulls off the win, maybe he'll get to embarrass the guy a little, step on his face, or give him a smack just to rub it in. He'd heard some of those nobles from Starboard were pretty weird anyway. His face dropped. She really didn't want to get involved with, and wished someone else could handle it. He tilted his head, looking like he couldn't figure out what was going on. Had checked this guy out before. There was just something off about him, like he was trouble and you didn't want to get on his bad side. Was known around university as one of those noble heirs who was super easy to get close to, so she had him down as somebody she might go after. His Playboy rep never really got him in trouble. What really messed things up was his family situation and that wild ex-girlfriend squad everyone knew about. Everyone at school said was that guy always with a new girl, like he never took a day off. He'd never actually had a girlfriend spend the night before. He stayed in a villa just outside campus and dipped right after evening practice every time. He always pulled up in his silver Gallop Tiger, which was literally the only one anyone at school had ever seen. He switched girlfriends almost every 3 days, but none of them ever came over to his place. Just couldn't believe he was really done with each relationship that fast. So she figured it out, didn't really chase girls for the usual reasons. He just collected girlfriends like some weird flex, almost like it was a hobby he was way too into. Everyone noticed when the Duke's son showed up at the school. It was tough not to think he'd gotten dragged into some kind of behind-the-scenes political drama. In stories like these, a dude like him always ends up being the classic rich bad guy, the kind you really want to avoid getting mixed up with. The observer just lifted an eyebrow, kind of surprised. He was starting to realize that if he actually made this guy go up against him, things could get messy fast. Gave a solid nod, totally backing him up right away. Right after that, the observer dropped a comment that completely froze her. He saw the setup and thought it was exactly what he needed. All he wanted was to stir things up, go full throttle, and make sure anyone who tried to mess with him got left in the dust. This was the kind of challenge he'd been waiting for. Was about to cry. She couldn't remember a time when she wanted something so childish and cocky. Before she even had a chance to say anything, the observer jumped in and shut her down. He basically wished her luck, telling her to go win her first fight, take down the swordsmanship genius, and throw in a punch at one of those nobles for good measure. Didn't waste a second, she lifted her sword and aimed it right at. Everyone at university knew was the top guy when it came to sword skills. Out of everyone there, he was the only one who actually stood a chance of being chosen for something as wild as a spirit summoning. The challenge was clear. Now it was all about whether would step up and take it on. The crowd went wild. Everyone could tell she was on another level, straight up genius vibes. She wasn't backing down, she was making it clear she wanted a real challenge. Felt her stomach drop. Obviously was after 2, and she went straight for that classic move to lock down Dam. While all this was happening, jumped in to try and stop things. She noticed had been grinding for 2 straight hours, not taking any breaks. Honestly, even if wanted to fight, thought she should at least chill and wait until the next day. Just shook his head. This was it. It was all going down right now. In just 2 hours after smashing out 3,600 swings, he went from barely knowing how to hold a sword to moving like a pro. Watching him, it was clear this dude had serious talent. He even managed to make someone who never gets rattled actually feel a little on edge. He knew if he didn't step up now, tomorrow he'd probably chicken out and wouldn't even be able to face him with a sword. This felt like his one shot to actually win. He didn't care if people started saying he was just using her while she was tired. All that mattered was beating her tonight. If he pulled that off, he'd at least feel like he still had a reason to keep going after her, even if it was just chasing her from behind. The family had a serious rep for their sword skills. They had 4 hidden stances and each one could actually call up a spirit. The wave stance was one of those secret moves. In their world, a stance wasn't just about practicing, it was like a ritual and a real fighting move all at once. Out of nowhere, noticed she couldn't move how she wanted anymore. She pushed back, thinking there was no point in fighting if someone else was calling the shots. Even if she came out on top, it wouldn't really be her win. She'd just be watching from the sidelines while someone else played the game for her. If all they wanted was to control her every move, she figured they might as well go for it. She didn't see any way to stop them. He started thinking, what if he could just take back control and actually step up to fight? He figured if facing one opponent wasn't enough to prove himself, he'd even go for 2 at once. That's how ready he was. The observer just cracked a small smile. He looked like he knew something, almost as if he was waiting for a reaction. No one ever said he was running the show, though, so it was kind of weird to just assume that. He never just picked opponents at random. There was always a reason behind who he chose, and he definitely couldn't just ignore what was going on with him. He pushes himself to move, knowing this could be his shot to get stronger. Right now, he knows he's already let way too much time slip by. He showed up here pushing himself until he had nothing left, all just hoping someone would finally pay attention. Mostly he wanted his roommate to actually see him for once. He's got more going for him than just his looks. His skills are actually something he can flex. Just seemed like the guy everyone wanted to go up against. From the second he showed up, you just couldn't stand the guy. The moment he rolled through campus in his silver Gallop Tiger, everyone turned to check him out. He was clearly the center of attention, just cruising while people watched. The second he started getting all the attention, you couldn't help but get jealous. You wished you were in his spot, and honestly, you just didn't like him at all. From his perspective, you looked like a rookie who barely knew anything beyond the basic sword moves, even if deep down, you were actually more talented than him. He still had the upper hand with his wave stance, the kind passed down from a noble family. The fight got way more intense, could feel anger building up in him. He kept thinking about how some people just seem to have it all and how they always end up on top, like no matter what he does, they're always ahead. Could barely keep up, totally thrown off. She was still going toe-to-toe with him, matching every move. He couldn't figure out how she still had this much energy. His energy shot up out of nowhere, and he got ready to drop his hardest move to finish the fight right then and there. The observer hung back in the crowd, keeping his eyes on. He felt pretty satisfied, like everything was going exactly how he wanted. Was finally starting to get it. This whole mess was something she brought on herself. He was the one who picked up the wooden sword. He walked straight onto that training ground. He wanted to take this guy down. He just wanted everyone to know could hold her own, no different from anyone else. Got into position, and his eyes went wide when he saw her wave stance. The crowd went wild. She pulled off the wave stance. No way she just picked that up from watching. She was straight up pushing his buttons. This was unreal. Couldn't stand it. This huntress was insanely good, and the way she set up this whole thing just to embarrass. There's no way he'd ever get it out of his head. Plus, if messed up now, would have the best reason to go along with more matches later. That meant even more time for this girl to hang around him. Lost it, he couldn't hold back, and everyone could tell he was fired up. In his head, he blamed for everything that was about to go down. He knew he could keep up with anyone. Right after that, their swords smashed together hard, and his wooden blade just broke clean in half. Everyone instantly locked in on his shoulder. There was a spirit right there. Out of nowhere, the wave sword spirit showed up right over his shoulder, moving in slow and steady. Right in the middle of the fight, someone managed to call out their life spirit, no hesitation. That move alone proved they were material. Didn't hold back, he raised his voice so could hear him from across the room. He wanted her to know that she shouldn't give up just yet. Had faith that would get her spirits to show up, and he figured it was only a matter of time before she did. Just stood there totally chill, acting like she was still in control. 2 sword students kept talking smack under their breath. Even though they tried to act all hard, it was honestly kind of funny. Guess when guys are that good, they just can't drop the ego. Right after that, his wooden sword snapped and broke into pieces. Everyone in the crowd just froze for a second. Out of nowhere, a spirit that looked exactly like showed up right on his shoulder. The whole crowd went wild. She just pulled out the family's wave, and on top of that, she brought out the sword spirit too. People started thinking, did she really copy wave and stance in the middle of the fight and just use it right then? Everyone knew that shouldn't even be possible. If that was real, she basically leveled up from a beginner with a sword to a full-on master overnight. Most people grind for years to get there, but she just skipped all the waiting. The observer stood in the crowd, grinning to himself, pretty satisfied with how things were going. Finally figured out the observer was just something her mind made up. He realized it was just his own mind talking to him, nothing but his imagination running wild. He started to disappear, his outline getting harder to see like he was glitching out. Right before he disappeared, he threw up a hand sign and basically told them to figure it out. Kept her cool on the outside, but deep down she was seriously annoyed at him. Right then the system popped up. Mad Sword Maiden just leveled up. She unlocked a new move called Wave Sword. Ash almost lost it, he just leveled up. He had no clue what a one-winged sword master was, but the dude who wrecked him earlier had 3 wings. Clearly, wings meant you were on another level. He let out a long breath, feeling pretty good about himself. Waking up at 6 a.m. to see how far he'd come in training was totally worth it. All that hard work actually paid off. Ash looked around, waiting for that 30% bonus EXP he was supposed to get, but nothing happened. He didn't feel stronger, and there wasn't any crazy power-up or wild boost. No skills just popped up out of nowhere either. The /terminal observer operator interface still looked exactly the same. He started thinking he might have just gotten played. He hadn't even dropped any cash yet. His family's company was known for putting out games where you basically can't do anything unless you pay up. Right then, a bright light popped up behind Ash's neck, grabbing his attention. A message came through letting him know he'd officially made it into Smash Lake Prison. Now he could move around certain spots without any trouble. It also pointed him to some sort of inmate guide for all the info. Plus, meals wouldn't get dropped off to him anymore. If he wanted to eat, he had to head over to the cafeteria himself. He heard it and looked up, seeing the prison gates swinging open. He couldn't figure out what was happening. He grabbed the inmate guide and started skimming through it fast. Turns out there were free hours from 7 in the morning to 10 at night, and he could hit up spots like the Central Hall, the Reading Room, the Gym Media Room, or even the Ocean View Terrace. They even had a couple's room and gave out supplies. There was a workshop, plus the cafeteria with set times: breakfast from 7 to 9, lunch from 11 to 2, and dinner from 5 to 8. If he missed a meal, he could just order food instead. In the Reading Room, if someone noticed a book was missing, all they had to do was let the admin know. New copies usually showed up in about 3 days, so nobody really stressed. Over in the Media Room, only legit movies and shows from the official sites were up for grabs. Movies didn't get streamed until after they finished in theaters, especially in the stock couple's room. Whenever anyone was done with stuff, they just tossed it in the recycle bin, no need to wash or put things back themselves. Having this much freedom felt sketchy. He wondered if someone was just trolling new guys like him. Whenever something felt this sus, Ash knew there had to be a reason, so he kept his guard up and wasn't letting himself get played. He sat there thinking, but then his stomach started making loud noises. He realized he was actually pretty hungry. He paused for a second, then figured he'd just grab some food real quick and head right back. He didn't think anything wild would go down while he was gone. He stepped out and noticed the hallway was totally empty, no guards anywhere. He walked into this huge hall packed with people, everyone moving around and making noise. No matter where he turned, the inmates just walked around like it was no big deal, not acting like guys who were stuck in jail at all. Ash noticed a guard just chilling, playing a game on his phone and not paying attention to anything. Ash felt a wave of relief hit. Finally, someone was here. At least now he had a shot at getting some help. He hadn't gotten the sword maiden skills yet, so he was basically useless in a fight. No strength, nothing, just stuck with all the burnout from his old desk job. If he didn't have someone tough watching his back, he honestly doubted he could even keep his pride. He started to chill out a little and figured he'd go find the cafeteria. While he was heading out, he caught part of a conversation between two guys watching the news. They were surprised ended up as a counselor, saying he was officially with the Immortal Wine Club now. With that move, Screw basically ran the show, leaving the mayor in the dust. Most people figured the mayor wouldn't even last through his whole term before getting replaced. This weird dude stepped up, not buying it at all. He started talking about how Mayor had Bishop in his corner, and that was supposed to mean something big. In his mind, doing well didn't actually mean was winning anything. This was basically a death sentence for him. Had been locked into for years, running things without anyone messing with him. The church wasn't about to step in unless things really got out of hand. Out of nowhere, Ash heard someone from behind bring up the railway commissioner's old suicide from 15 years back. When he turned around, he saw a group of green-skinned orc inmates and a goblin prisoner deep in conversation about some big political changes going on. A guy walked up looking like he owned the place. Turns out he's actually the leader of some four-pillar god cult, and for some reason he's invested in the city's politics. Ash spun around to face the guy. The man just kept talking, acting like he totally recognized Ash. Apparently, Ash had been all over the news at 7 o'clock for the past couple of days, so everyone basically knew his face by now. That's just how news works. People see you online, and suddenly you're not a stranger anymore. This was actually their first time meeting face-to-face. He figured the guy might have recognized him from the news, since his name Boking had been out there. Ash didn't rush his answer. He took a second, thinking it through before he said anything. Ash showed up and introduced himself, kind of checking if everyone was always this chill. Hoke and Grind were always chill with new people. Everyone there wanted the same thing, so it just made sense. He wondered if he should check out the Prison Break research group. They always had each other's backs. Ash's eyes flashed with excitement. Seriously, couldn't have happened at a better moment. He'd been trying to find an escape plan, and now there was already a squad he could roll with. Right then, a girl jumped in with this icy tone, basically saying if she were in his shoes, she'd just swing on the guy. Ash heard the voice and instantly thought it sounded familiar. Was it the Sword Maiden? Without even thinking, he swung and landed a punch right at Boking. Right when his punch was about to land, out of nowhere, alarms started blasting through the system. On the screen, a bright red warning flashed, calling him out for hitting someone way too hard. Apparently, he just broke the rules big time. He stopped his punch right before it could land on Boking, his fist hanging in the air, just barely missing his face. Boking just smirked to himself. Honestly, Ash's punch barely had any power behind it, almost like he was just messing around. He saw that the guy was actually doing okay in prison, way more chill than expected, so he just shrugged and left, not planning to stick around. Ash let out a long breath, finally able to move. He was just stuck there thinking what just happened. The Sword Maiden didn't sound friendly at all. She basically said there was nothing wild about what just happened. The chip in the back of his neck picked up on someone trying to mess with him, fired off a signal, and took over his body for a second to block the attack. People usually use this tech to keep track of farm animals, but on humans it actually works way better. Ash just stood there, totally lost. If that was the case, he couldn't figure out why he was told to throw a punch in the first place. Fighting and magic might be off limits in this place, but there are still a bunch of sneaky moves you can pull off. So if someone uses a spirit to lock in a contract, it's wild how it works. That guy, pretty sure he's got blood in him, are known for being super good at all the psychic stuff. If you had said yes and shook his hand, you had been locked into a full-on contract without even realizing it. Basically, it's like being buddies who got each other's backs. The catch, you'd always have to help him out, but if you ever needed something, it'd just depend on whatever mood he was in that day. Ash suddenly got it. If he'd actually shaken the guy's hand, that would have been like signing up to work for him. No paycheck, not even a real job, just stuck as his unpaid intern. He suddenly remembered that no one else could actually see her. Everyone around kept doing their thing, but the Sword Maiden just stayed chill. She let him know she'd keep the convo going, but if he was cool with everyone else looking at him like he was wild, then no big deal. Everyone always talked about the mad Sword Maiden, but seeing her in front of him made it real. He really was the maiden. Watching all this go down, it hit her. She never thought he'd end up somewhere like this. It honestly made her want to laugh at how far he'd fallen. He really did care, and he noticed right away that she wasn't even wearing the clothes from her drawing. He's out here walking around in that basic Supreme Smash Lake prison jumpsuit, looking nothing like the character he draws. Honestly, he shouldn't be judging anyone else's style. The Sword Maiden stood tall, making it pretty obvious she was proud. She couldn't believe anyone would think she'd be okay wearing the same dirty clothes on repeat just because she's a girl. He noticed Sword Maiden Doryman nearby and figured this was his shot. If anyone could help him break out of this prison, it'd be her. She laughed to herself, wondering why she'd even bother helping him get out. He already had food and a spot to crash, which was probably all a guy like him needed anyway. To her, he didn't have much reason to be in such a rush to dip. Maybe the outside world wasn't any better. He started thinking about just calling it quits and enjoying the easy life he'd always wanted. He knew he'd been set up, and with the Blood Moon trial coming up in a few days, it was obvious this wasn't some chill invite to hang out. No way was this going to be a good time. The Sword Maiden let out a quick laugh. Hearing about the Blood Moon trial, she honestly had zero interest in helping him get away now. He reminded her that he was in charge, and she couldn't just do whatever she wanted. Her face went ice cold in a split second, and her eyes started glowing red. It was like she was about to say something but stopped. She poked his forehead, not holding back at all. He could tell she was seriously annoyed, like she needed to know exactly what he meant. Every time someone poked him, it honestly looked like steam was about to shoot out of his forehead. He could tell what the guy was hinting at, something about his master. But seriously, what was that even supposed to mean? It was almost like the dude wanted him to say it out loud, just so he'd have more stuff to mess around with in his own head. Ash's face turned serious. He didn't see anything wrong with it. He realized she was just a game character, and he was the one holding the controller. If he messed up and lost, she'd disappear for good. With things set up like that, it made sense for her to have his back. Ash stayed cool, making it clear he wasn't trying to boss anyone around, but he wasn't about to let himself get pushed around either. He realized that if she couldn't see him as an equal, he might as well just disappear back into the game and exist as nothing more than code. The Sword Maiden turned around, staying totally chill. She knew she was just some digital character, not real, just someone's idea brought to life on a screen. He thought back to what the Observer said that day. No matter what, he knew the Observer wasn't in charge of him now and never would be. If he lied, that was it. His face would straight up disappear, and he wouldn't get it back for like 10,000 years. Ash fired right back, promising that if he was lying, he'd basically lose all his pride and wouldn't get it back for ages. Like a crazy long time. The Sword Maiden signaled for him to come along, so he followed her as they started walking. He actually wishes he could step in, but there's just nothing he can do. Nobody else could see him or even touch him, just the main guy. He was basically a ghost, not able to mess with anything around him. So honestly, there was no way he could help with breaking out of prison. Ash blinked, trying to figure it out. If that's the case, why show up now just to flex a new skin? He remembered what he said about their bond. The Sword Maiden let him know she was there to hand over that 30% shared experience boost. Ash stretched out his arms, shut his eyes, and got totally serious. He was locked in and ready for whatever was coming. She poked him in the forehead again, not buying it for a second. In her head, she was thinking, no way he's just gonna level up instantly and know everything about her sword skills like it's some kind of video game power-up. His forehead practically looked like it could start steaming as he just stared ahead, totally blank, trying to figure out how anyone was supposed to transfer it. He just had to find someone to throw hands with. While he was busy fighting, the other guy would send the skills straight to him, so he'd start picking things up mid-battle without even thinking about it. When Ash heard that, he looked around to see what was up. He spotted the guy right away, bald, tatted up, built like a tank, and a nasty scar running across his face. The dude gave off straight-up serial killer vibes, like he'd been through way too much and took out anyone in his way before landing here. Ash walked straight up, not even hesitating, and just tipped the guy's cup so water splashed all over him. He did it on purpose, no doubt about it. The bald guy's eyes turned straight up red as he stood up all the way, looking huge compared to Ash. Ash got ready for a punch, but the guy's face totally changed and went soft, almost like he was looking at something he really liked. The dude just told him to watch out while walking around, then even dropped dropped a tip about the milk being good today, like Ash needed a food review right then. Ash just froze and stared at him, totally thrown off. This wasn't what he expected at all. Back at his place, the Sword Maiden couldn't stop laughing. She was actually losing it, barely able to stand up straight. Turns out she'd been through some serious training, but sometimes even she couldn't hold it together. Every inmate here has a chip stuck in the back of their neck, keeping them in check. No fighting, no trash talk, no hurting themselves. None of that gets past these chips. That's the real reason Smash Lake Prison looks so chill. It feels open, but everyone's basically locked down from the inside out. It's even safe enough that schools bring kids here on field trips during spring and fall. Those chips are no joke. They hit you with a heavy jolt that can literally stop your heart on the spot. If you even think about trying to dig out with something like a spoon, the chip just fries your system for messing with their stuff. Ash's eyes started to tear up. He wondered how he was supposed to get someone to throw hands when prisoners weren't even allowed to attack. The Sword Maiden just lost it. She was done waiting and wanted to throw hands with someone since fighting was the only thing that really made sense to her. She wondered if the observer was losing it or if it was actually her. Then she joked to herself, wondering if the observer was gonna start calling her mom next time he needed something, like when he got hungry. Ash suddenly called out for his mom and grandma, and that instantly set the Sword Maiden off. She slapped him with so much force, he literally flew backwards. Ash crashed straight into the bald guy's back. Ash introduced himself, wanting to know who the other person was. The big dude with the basketball really thought he had it all figured out. He realized someone was flirting with him, so he just pointed at himself to say he was already taken. Ash caught a chill down his back, realizing things just got weird. He only wanted to ask something simple, but now the bald dude looked way too happy, almost like he thought Ash was crushing on him. The guy kept acting like he totally got it, saying it must be awkward for Ash to flirt with someone who's already taken. Ash wasn't even trying to go there. The bald guy was all in. He really cared about his boyfriend, no games. From the jump, he made it obvious where he stood. He was chill with everyone, but he didn't mess around if someone started doubting him, not even a little. Ash was honestly a solid dude, and everyone kind of knew it. Even if things weren't working out for him right now, it felt like his time would come. One day he'd meet the right person, no doubt. Ash didn't really have to stress about it. Messing up while trying to flirt is something everyone goes through. If he couldn't come up with a backup excuse right away, no big deal, there was time. Honestly though, the way he tried to catch her eye was straight out of an old playbook. Purposely spilling her milk, that move was straight up elementary. Ash held back what he really wanted to say and just straight up asked if I wanted to throw hands, looking for any way to make it happen. The bald guy looked up, eyebrow climbing like he already knew what was up. He could tell the dude was new around here. If this guy wanted a real workout, he definitely found the right dude to show him how it's done. It's part of the club and they've actually got the warden to sign off on what they do. When there's an official fight, the club members get their chips turned off for a bit just so they can throw down for real. Not everyone gets that, only people in the club get this kind of treatment. Ash's eyes got huge. Club, that means fighting for real, like actually to the end. He couldn't believe the prison just lets them go at it like that. Ash couldn't believe it. After all the rules this place throws at them, they actually let people go after each other for real. Just laughed, thinking that someone passing away doesn't always mean it's your fault. The medical bay sits right next to the arena. If someone goes down and their body is still in one piece, as long as it hasn't been more than 5 minutes, the staff can usually revive them. Nobody really knows what kind of random side effects he's gonna have when he wakes up. That's just how it goes. And honestly, even if a prisoner actually dies, the warden couldn't care less. Everyone locked up in this place already knows they're living on borrowed time. Out of nowhere, he started looking way more upbeat. He pointed right at Ash. Suddenly it clicked. Ash was that guy everyone had seen on the news, the one leading the whole Four Pillars cult thing. His face started to turn red as he leaned in. He'd always wondered what was up with that weird cult, but since he was already with someone, he couldn't really go for it, even if part of him wanted to. He let out a loud sigh, kind of over the top. It made sense now why the guy was so eager to jump into the club. Everyone knew the 15th was coming up quick. Honestly, nobody wanted to see someone decent like him go out like that. Ash scrunched his face, trying to figure out what was supposed to go down on the 15th. Didn't hold back, he was about to lay it all out. In Lake Break Prison, every single person was on death row. There was no getting out, no second chances, and nobody was coming to save them. All their rights gone. The prison made sure they had food, a bed, and even stuff to pass the time, but there was one hard rule that everyone knew. Nobody was allowed to kill anyone, not even themselves. At the end of the day, everyone knows what's coming. The Blood Moon Judgment, basically a public execution streamed to millions. All anyone can do is wait, knowing their time's coming sooner or later. Ash just stood there, totally stunned. He couldn't believe what he'd just heard. This whole system made zero sense to him. It honestly seemed like a straight-up waste. Most people have no clue how things actually work. The Blood Moon Judgment goes live at 8 p.m. every 1st and 15th, and almost everyone in the city is watching. With so many viewers, the ad money they pull in is way more than what it takes to keep them stuck in there. Ash blinked, trying to wrap his head around it. Public executions were apparently the big thing now, like everyone showed up for them. He couldn't help but wonder if any of these people actually had real jobs or if this was just what they did for fun. Laughed to himself, getting out of the Blood Moon Judgment wasn't impossible. Every round finished with someone dying, but the thing is, 8 inmates go into the arena each time and those spots can actually change. All the guys on death row come in with 50 points. Every month they lose 10 points just for being there. Even if someone's points drop all the way to 0, nothing really goes down immediately. The prison doesn't even care enough to do anything about it. If your points are high, you end up way further back when it's time for judgment. But if your score's low, you get pushed to the front of the line real quick. You can rack up points in all kinds of ways. The easiest way, just do something useful. The memory extractors took out everything they knew before coming in, so there's no way for them to leak any secrets. Still, they figured out how to stay useful. Guys who end up in jail for corruption sometimes get put in charge of making new rules, so the same stuff doesn't happen again. Now the people who used to mess with illegal experiments can actually keep doing their research. This time it's all above board, and they can even drop official papers about it. If someone's got a skill people want, they can still pump out bestsellers even from prison. That still counts as making something valuable. Most of the people around here are just like him, guys who don't want to work, who'd rather steal and mess around than actually put in any effort. That's why the club is the only shot they've got to escape. Ash's face dropped. He remembered that fighting in the club wasn't just about getting hurt or risking your life. There was something else you had to pay for, and he wondered what that was. Broke it down, in a death match, what really matters is the contribution points on the line. Both players have to put up their points as a bet. If you win, you get to dodge the blood moon this time. But if you lose, things get real. Judgment S waiting for you. If the blood moon judgment is where it all ends, the club is basically the wild path everyone has to take to get there. Nearly every death row inmate ends up joining in, throwing down their final points and pushing themselves to the absolute limit. They step up in front of a massive crowd, turning pain into a show for everyone watching. That's what brings to the table. Only the toughest survive, making sure the action never stops. That's the whole reason Lake Break Prison lets the club keep running. Laughed to himself, knowing that every performer's gotta get their makeup done before stepping out on stage. Ash got it now. He'd never seen a blood moon judgment up close, but he could picture it, almost like those mobile games with wild character designs. Only this time the showdown turned prisoners into monsters that everyone had to pay attention to. It was like being stuck in a brutal game. Everyone losing, panic everywhere, and pain just stacking up nonstop. When a guy's got everything on the line in a fight, something just clicks inside. That survival mode hits hard, and he finds strength he didn't even know he had. Every time the convict took another loss, the pain just messed him up even more, and fear totally broke him down. That's when he ended up being the main target. Everyone watching could tell this guy was straight up dangerous and totally lost in his own darkness. They weren't looking for people who'd already given up inside. They wanted fighters, guys who'd hang on and go all out, even when it was almost over. Everyone knew it was a setup, but there wasn't really any other move. They just had to go for it. Suddenly, the guys who lost started getting treated like they were worth a ton. The winners took the poison just to grab some quick fame. At the end of it all, every single one of them was done for, used up until there was nothing left to give. The comfy cells and solid food were just there to keep them around longer, like fattening up cattle before the end. The whole judgment thing was savage. Everyone was basically fighting for their lives, just trying not to be the first one taken out. It was all about survival. Either you take them out or you're done for. Honestly, none of them were innocent anyway. He figured if someone didn't want to get used, they could just give up and wait for it all to end. If you wanted to stay alive, you had to throw hands for it. Ash figured that if he was just some guy on the sidelines, he'd probably be hyped watching how everything was set up, just chilling and enjoying the show. Man, it sucks that his dumb cult leader sister pulled him into all this chaos. At this point, he just had to figure out a different way to get out. Just looked at him, smirking like he already knew the answer. After hearing everything, he basically wanted to see if the guy was still down to join the club. Ash jumped in right away, not even stopping to think, just stayed chill like he totally expected it. He downed the rest of his milk and let out a huge burp that echoed in the room. After that, he motioned for the others to come along, hinting that if they moved fast, they might stumble on a brand new body. Ash couldn't believe there was a going down already first thing in the morning. He just stood there, blinking, trying to process it. At the start of, players have to put up some contribution points, but it's not a big deal in the beginning. The first round just needs 1 point, and then every round after that, the cost goes up by 1. Next round, he got 2 points, then in the third, 3 points, it just kept going up like that. Losing your first 5 games doesn't mean it's over. There's still a tiny shot at making a comeback. Inside Lake Break Prison, every inmate went all out with their 5 shots. They threw down hard, trying to figure out who was actually tough and where everyone ranked in the prison pecking order. Are always going down almost daily, honestly. The 15th was coming up fast, and the top dogs in the prison were getting restless. Everyone wanted out before the blood moon judgment went down, and they were ready to throw hands to make it happen. Ash flashed a quick grin, thinking the ring probably wouldn't even get a chance to lose that blood before stuff kicked off again. Then he switched it up, asking if anyone was down for some meat. His eyes widened for a second. He heard meat, and honestly, he had no clue what that was supposed to mean. He spun around, flashing a big smile that showed off his perfect white teeth, explained that the meat was the kind that drops from the ring, and it's one of the rare things you can actually buy with contribution points. points. Everything else just goes straight to the prison unless you cough up the points to buy it back. If you get lucky, you might score a top-tier thigh cut. No matter if you eat it raw or cooked, it always hits different. As soon as they walked in, everyone spotted him right away. People started whispering, yeah, that's the gourmet. Some folks even started eyeing the guy behind him, trying to figure out if that was new boyfriend. Messed around, sticking out his tongue. He really wasn't having it with and pretty much warned him, if kept messing with his relationship, things were gonna get rough. Jerked back a little, trying to play it off like it was nothing. He glanced at, hoping she didn't take it the wrong way, then tried to switch things up and check out who the new dude was. Everyone knows him as Ash Sis, that dude all over the news for leading the Four Pillars cult. Out of nowhere, the crowd went wild. Everyone's attention snapped to the ring. Diamond Tiger was about to take on Blind Beast. Up on stage, this goblin-looking dude was going all out, hurling whatever he could at some old guy. Tiger was already way past his prime, so everyone was confused about why he wouldn't even hand over a few contribution points. Nobody could figure out why he was being so stingy. Honestly, it made you wonder if any of them had actually gone up against themselves. Everyone had their eyes on that huge prize and words started going around. Had never actually watched Tiger throw down, so to him, Tiger just seemed like someone he could push around. Plus, with the stakes getting higher, the payout would only get crazier. He's already struggling to breathe. You can see him trying to catch his breath and it's not looking good. He had that wild, messed up grin, the kind you only ever see on real killers. He jumped up, swung his fists, and nailed right in the jaw, who's built like a tank got launched across the room. Tiger kept going, not holding back at all. His fists came down fast, hitting over and over like he was locked in and couldn't stop. Ash looked confused for a second, thinking it was over. He was sure he already had it in the bag. Someone hiding in the dark let him know it wasn't that easy. The air barrier was still holding strong. The thing only shows up if one of them goes down for good or totally passes out. As long as that barrier's up, he just keeps going. No backing down, no holding back. You either get taken out or you're out cold, there's no in between. A lot of guys thought this was just some chill practice match. They let their guard down in the middle of the fight and paid for it, got taken out and lost all their points, which instantly dropped them right at the front of the elimination list. The club was all about taking points from people who couldn't hold their own, and giving them to the ones who could actually step up. So as long as both players are cool with it, the bets don't have to match up. Plus, every needs to have at least one more point on the line than the one before. The Tigers had already played 34 games before this, so this was number 35. Ash wasn't too happy about it, for though this was his 5th game. He's on his 10th try now. Dude's already taken 9 LS in a row, only 5 points left on the board. Everyone knows why they call him Blind Beast. He's always starting stuff with guys who are way tougher than him. While they were talking, just collapsed. When the barrier finally goes down, the doors swing open. Medics rush in, grab him, and take him straight to the infirmary to get him fixed up. That's when everyone knows the match is really done. Tiger stepped off the stage, coughing a couple times. That beast punch was still messing him up. His side was wrecked, maybe even a rib. The crowd started laughing, not taking him seriously at all. They just saw him as some washed-up dude trying too hard. Right then, Sword Maiden showed up next to Ash. She looked at the guy on stage and just stared, totally unimpressed. Ash could tell she thought he was tough, but she wasn't about to hype him up. Ash wondered why, but Sword Maiden shot him a look and put her finger to her lips, making it clear he needed to keep quiet or someone might catch him talking to nobody. Sword Maiden broke it down for him. In this arena, you could only attack. Everything else, even magic, just wouldn't work. Guys like to think are all the same, but they're not. Some are craftsmen, others fight, a few just study, and some fix people up. No matter what type they are, though, they all need mana to do their thing. Take that away, and honestly, they're just like everyone else. Some out there can still throw down with monsters, even when they're out of mana. People call them body arts. If someone spent years training their body, like sword guys, fighters, or anyone deep into martial arts, they fit right in. The thing is, most of them just remember their old skills, but they're not actually stronger than regular folks. Some guys are just built different. These are the ones who take matters into their own hands, literally changing their bodies to become real-life weapons. Their strength is on another level, almost scary, honestly. Even when they're out of mana, their bodies still stay upgraded. People call them. Sword Maiden basically told Ash he needed to get in on the action, but to stay away from that older dude. Ash couldn't help but think she must think he's clueless or something. She quickly tossed in another rule, pick someone who's not armed. Ash had to fight with just his fists too. Ash's face tightened, he didn't get why that was even a thing. Just smiled, knowing he was way too weak. If he tried to fight anyone holding a sword, he'd be done instantly. Throwing hands at least gave him a chance to catch his breath, and it let her pass on some skills while they sparred. Ash glanced over at the guy next to him, sizing him up. He wanted to throw down, no weapons, just straight hands. He wondered if this dude knew anyone worth calling out. The guy just grinned when he heard that, clearly confident. He wasn't worried at all, hand-to-hand was his thing. He looked ready to throw down, acting like this was nothing new for him, and even hinted he'd take it easy. Ash's eyes went wide. He was hyped, but since this was his first death match, he was just putting one contribution point on the line. He figured if the other guy was faking being weak, there wasn't much to gain anyway. The guy leaned in way too chill with this weird smile on his face. He wasn't just after points, he actually planned to hand some back like he was doing a favor. Ash finally got a clear look at his face and just froze. That was Eager standing right there. Flashed a confident grin, basically calling himself a weak faker. He knew even Ash probably wanted to swing at him, especially with those small, not-so-threatening fists. The place went wild as the new cult leaders started scrapping with the beastly beauty. That monster always scores, never slips up, not even once. Seriously, is the cult dude already under her spell? Looks like she's about to rack up 50 points, no problem. Ash heard the yelling and tried to hold it together with a weak smile. Now he knew for sure they'd been pretending not to get it the whole time. Laughed, thinking the guy in front of him was probably holding back on purpose, maybe trying to get him to let his guard down. The dude was actually the leader of the Four Pillars cult, the same guy bold enough to step up to the Blood Frenzy Hunter while saw himself as just some regular scammer. Still, he knew this guy's fighting skills were on another level. Before the match even started, Ash wanted to know what Thoughtabout's record. Prison blocks most mana, yeah, but still found ways to use it sideways. Dude was basically a scammer. It reminded Ash of that time pulled him into the hall doing his sneaky stuff. Couldn't stop laughing, she was almost bent in half from it. She looked at like he was wild for calling that an advantage, and honestly she seemed like she might just lose it right there. Nobody really gets where his confidence comes from. Honestly, he should probably remember why he decided to get up on that stage in the first place. Ash snapped out of it real quick when he heard the question. There's no script content to rewrite, just the word yourself. If you give me more of the original script or panel text, I can rewrite it as requested. He wondered what made him say yes to this challenge in the first place. For a second, it was like his brain just accepted this wild idea without even blinking. He didn't even try to push it away. He couldn't believe he actually replied just because someone said, "Fight me, I won't bully you." He just jumped right in like, alright, let's do this. Slouched against the railing, clearly not interested, she decided she wouldn't just say yes to random invites anymore. 111 is the end watcher, the one who stands alone at the finish line. He's supposed to turn down help, ignore the haters and the fans, and just rely on himself. No shortcuts, no handouts, he's got to take on everything using his own power. He's meant to stay in control, make his own rules, and basically be the boss of it all. That's the vibe Demon King status. Ash almost said no without thinking. Sword Maiden got annoyed and called him out, clearly not happy with what he did. Right then, a clear wall popped up around the ring, letting everyone know that was really about to go down. Ash suddenly heard a loud ding in his head. Something in his neck felt different, like a tight grip just let go. The chip that always stopped him from going after wasn't blocking him anymore. He barely had time to react before shot forward, moving fast like a leopard on the hunt. Ash threw up his arm to block and tried to slide out of the way. Was ready for it, he went in hard with a rough slide tackle, kicking up Ash everywhere. Ash crashed face first onto the ring, his chin smashing the mat so hard it sent a wave of pain through his whole head. For a second his eyesight went fuzzy and everything just spun. Ash was locked in, he reacted instantly, pushing off with his feet right away. No matter what Ash did, he just couldn't get away from. The guy's punch landed right in Ash's stomach, and it hurt way more than he expected. He let out a rough noise from the pain. His stomach twisted up so hard he almost threw up right then. Sounding all sarcastic, told him to brace himself. Ash barely had time to process what was happening before another solid hit came flying straight at the side of his head. He suddenly got dizzy, and the sides of his vision started to fade out. He slumped against the ropes, barely holding himself up, arms tight around his stomach. Just kept landing shots like he knew exactly where Ash would guard. Every punch, straight or curved, slipped right through and hit its mark. After a few minutes, Ash was already beat up, his face swollen, barely staying on his feet as the hits kept coming. He was freaking out in his head, wondering when the experience was finally going to kick in. If things kept going like this, he thought he might actually get taken out. He really hoped the Sword Maiden would jump in and save him. Didn't seem stressed at all. She just said things would happen soon and told him that grabbing more would speed things up. Instead of just ducking and dodging, he should throw some hits back. Ash still held onto a bit of hope, wondering if fighting back would make the transfer go any faster. Watching him just get beat up nonstop gets old fast. With some back and forth, the match actually gets fun to watch. Didn't let it show, but she honestly didn't see that coming. She figured he'd either start begging or just lose it and cry right there. Even after getting embarrassed like that, he was done taking it. This guy, who'd never been around that kind of violence before, was still tougher than anyone expected. He probably didn't need or this manual to figure things out. After that first wild moment of landing in this shiny but rough world, he'd just lock in and start getting used to it. He was never soft, just waiting for the right place to show what he could do. When it came down to it, he was always the last one standing, keeping watch when everyone else was gone. Looking back, Ash figured out that moment was when he started picking up everything going on around him, almost without even noticing. Out of nowhere, his heart started pounding way faster. He planted his feet, dropped into a solid stance, and fired off a punch straight ahead, not holding back at all. His first thought, it was insanely soft, honestly, just looked way too cute right then. He tilted his head to the side with a cocky grin, then fired back a punch that landed hard on Ash's face. Ash wanted to let out a curse, but he was too out of breath to even get a word out. He kept swinging, but nothing connected. Meanwhile, nailed every shot. Ash couldn't block or get out of the way, he was just getting worked, dodged everything like it was nothing. The people watching could tell this was way past a normal fight, it felt more like a show now. The beast pulled off that same move again, smooth like he'd practiced it forever. The cult leader's 49 points basically wiped out. That made it 45 wins in a row for the beast. At this point, only Old Man Tiger stood a chance against him. Tiger started waving his hands all over the place like he was trying to stop what was coming. He couldn't believe how wild these new kids were. Every year they just got stronger and stronger. He knew he wasn't getting any younger, and it was only a matter of time before he'd just be another stepping stone for them. The old guy was gripping the railing so hard, it looked like he was about to bend it out of shape. Honestly, he should probably chill with the iron grip before telling anyone else what to do. Everyone looked over at who was chilling in the arms of this big dude. People were wondering if could really see through the beast's move or if he was just guessing. Just shrugged and let out a big yawn. He figured you only really get to know the guy after throwing hands with him. But honestly, he didn't care. Dude just wasn't his vibe. He wasn't stressed about it though. For him, the only person who mattered was right in front of him. Everyone else kind of faded into the background. Stood in the ring looking like he barely cared. He wasn't ripped or anything, and his moves weren't lightning fast. Still, he had this crazy record, 45 wins in a row. Somehow, he always landed his hits, and his opponents never even touched him. It made everyone wonder how he pulled it off. After throwing hands for a bit, Ash figured out wasn't built any tougher than he was. Honestly, the dude didn't have Tiger-level strength. He barely stacked up to some random dude from the street. Ash and were both pretty new at this, but for some reason, Ash just couldn't seem to touch him. Didn't have any crazy skills either. If he did, Ash would already be out cold. Even though they were both just starting out, Ash couldn't figure out why it felt like he was fighting way out of his league. 148, leaned in close, his sharp features impossible to ignore and his eyes shining with intensity. He looked at the guy like they were nothing but cattle, made just to get used up and cut down for whoever was in charge. It wasn't just him either. Every beastman, troll, or goblin who thought they were tough had already been dropped right here, basically serving up their best stuff to without even realizing it. Stared him down the second he walked into the ring. He was ready to throw a chain around his neck and take every last contribution point, treating him like nothing more than easy prey. Ash was pissed. He threw a punch right away. Looked like he totally read his mind and started roasting weak. He just pointed out how weak he was, not holding back at all. In the blink of an eye, he dropped low and fired an uppercut right into Ash's jaw. He couldn't help but wonder who Ash thought he was messing with. Those punches were soft, like he'd never thrown a real one before. Ash kept going in with his moves, but every time the other guy saw right through him. He knew Ash was about to go for his left shin. He's about to grab me and swing a right hook. Kept it cool, barely showing any emotion. He could tell exactly what the other guy was thinking, like he was reading his mind. Every move in the fight was obvious to him, nothing was a surprise. He moved around like he knew exactly what was coming, dodging everything without breaking a sweat. It was almost like he was showing off, daring them to try harder, and honestly, it was kind of funny how much he was enjoying himself. Right when he thought he had Ash beat, Ash moved out of the way fast, catching off guard and making him step back a few times. His eyes went wide for a second. He couldn't believe the guy dodged his attack. That was bad news. He knew he had to finish things fast. He went straight for the KO. The crowd went wild as the Beast suddenly got real serious. Everyone just wanted to see someone finally end it. Beast should probably grab a knife next time if he's planning to snack on some solid thigh meat. Just laughed to himself, knowing that even if he didn't go after it, the other guy still wasn't getting anything. One dude in the crowd who caught everything pointed out how the Beast never missed a punch before. He's trying for 1 out of 4 shots now, and even that one gets blocked. He just shrugged it off, not really fazed. Looked like he was pretending not to get it. The old Tiger dude, yeah, he acts just like him. Tiger looked at coolly and just shook his head. There was no act. This dude actually had no clue. Got up and pointed out that you can't fake what your body shows. This guy looked like he'd never even been in a fight, straight up bookworm vibes. Literally brought him here so if anyone knew it was him. No way, after just a couple minutes throwing hands, he's already picking up on fight tactics. Guess this is what you get from someone rolling with the 4 pillars god. This was just some random dude, stuck in the worst spot possible, unlocking a power he never should had. The cult leader just stopped the beast strike, first time anyone's ever done that. Defense on point. Up in the stands, the sword maiden gave a small nod. She knew it was about to wrap up. Back in the day, every time had its own vibe. Now big wars don't really happen anymore. People aren't out conquering new lands. Social groups are pretty much set and everything runs on strict systems. Instead of old school looting, the ways people get taken advantage of just got sneakier. Nobody had much left, so everyone was scrambling for whatever scraps they could grab. Every move they made had to stick to these old rules that had been around forever. Now, the only thing that really counted was who could take control. Running the show, running the rules, running the whole vibe, even running what people think. In this Blood Moon country, your place was pretty much set from day one, and almost nobody ever got a shot at the dream world. But mind sorcerers, guys like him were always at the top, nobody else even came close. Everyone knew not to mess with their crew, not even the top clans like the Blood Saints and those guys got so shook, they made sure no one below them ever found out about Minecraft. Because of his awakened nymph bloodline and the way he figured out how the two mind spirits synced up in the dream world, he broke past what normal people could do. Now, he was a real mind sorcerer. Back in the day, he worked as a contract mage for an insurance company, just rocking that basic mind spirit contract. But when he stacked contract, resonance, and fulfillment together, he unlocked some wild power that could actually control smart creatures. Whatever he said, it basically happened, no questions asked. No one could really tell if he was joking or just making stuff up, but whenever he said something, things just happened like he owned reality. He had this wild ability to link up with people, lock in a promise, and then make sure they actually followed through. In a normal world, that kind of power was basically unbeatable. Honestly, he deserved to be chilling at a beach house somewhere, living easy with a drink in hand. No matter how strict the rules got, he always found a way to run things his way. Prison didn't change that. Even with his powers locked down, his main spirit's contract, resonance, and fulfillment didn't need magic or anything wild, just his voice. All he had to do was say the right words, and he could get around the system and bring his spirits back online. He kept the connection going strong with his opponent, using their contract and some well-timed words. Because of that, he could pretty much see every move coming before it even happened. With that miracle law backing him up, no one who lost to him could really walk away. Somehow, they'd just keep agreeing to rematches over and over until their points were completely gone. That's how he managed to rack up 45 wins straight. But this dude, he used to just stand there and take it, not saying a word. Now he was done staying quiet, he made sure everyone heard him. Watched the punch land and barely reacted. To him it was weak, like something a kid would throw. He could see the guy was already catching his breath, and honestly he hadn't expected him to keep up this long. He noticed how fast the guy was picking things up, way faster than he expected. Maybe it was just some hidden talent, or maybe the four pillars god was looking out for him. Either way, he could see the potential there. But seriously, the dude's body was weak. He figured if he just kept pushing, the other guy would run out of steam eventually. Ash only got 1 point, and honestly that was his whole shot at redemption. It was like the system telling him, congrats, you're not just a follower anymore. For a second he stood out from the rest, he actually broke free. Still, even after all that, that's pretty much all he's got. Once this game wraps up, that's it. He's not accepting any more of these challenges. Plus, with how things work in the prison, the other guy isn't even allowed to mess with him anymore. He always believed real power came from knowing the rules, playing by them, and then running the whole game. When the blood moon trial hits, it doesn't matter how tough you think you are, those instincts just flip the switch, turning you from just another target into something wild. He'd be chilling somewhere safe, glass of wine in hand, just watching them struggle in the arena. That's how big the difference is between someone in charge and everyone else. He didn't bother hiding his face this time. Turns out he was actually pretty good looking, not that he'd admit it. She wanted to see him, just taking it all in. Just stopped in his tracks. No one had ever said anything real like that to him in the arena before. Without even thinking, his ego took over and he dropped his guard a bit. Ash didn't waste a second. His fist landed straight on the guy's face. Dropped to the ground and just stayed there. The judge called it. Ash Heath took the win. At this point, Ash had nothing left in the tank. Inside his head, the pain just spiked, like someone turned the volume all the way up. The place was on fire. He finally realized what it was like to be in a real fight. It just hit him, this was no game. He feels the pain. He felt a sharp pain run through him. Out of nowhere it clicked, something was seriously messed up. This match wasn't really about who came out on top. For him, it was all about turning death row inmates' pain into a wild show, making every mess up and every shout something the crowd couldn't look away from. They weren't looking for someone to win, they wanted a real monster. Someone who'd been through hell, barely hanging on, wild-eyed and covered in blood, still doing anything to survive. That's what actually mattered to them. During the Blood Moon trial, everything looked perfect, almost like it was set up to pull people in. No one really turned it down. The ones who didn't make it basically turned into merchandise for the place, getting auctioned off on live streams for a lot of cash. Even the winners didn't really win, they were just stuck with a different kind of problem. Eventually everyone landed in the spotlight, and all those perks like private showers, good food, and nice rooms were just bait to keep them hooked. The animals on the farm. Everyone kept talking about this so-called judgment sequence, but honestly it was just a regular judgment sequence, nothing special at all. There's no script provided to rewrite, just the phrase, then an empty JSON. Please provide the full script or text that needs editing. It was non-stop, like a game where only one could come out on top. For him it was simple, it was either his game over or the other guy's. That was just brutal. It honestly made sense. Everyone in this place had done something wrong. If someone didn't want to get used, their only other option was to give up and just wait for the end. He wondered if he really wanted to keep going. He decided it was time to go all out and give everything he had. Ash sat there, thinking about how things would be different if he wasn't stuck in that place. He probably would. Everyone would just be hyped up for this system, sitting back and watching it all go down like it's a movie, snacks in hand. Out of nowhere, he suddenly noticed the pain just wasn't there anymore. Ash's name showed up. Teeth was still out cold while everyone else was getting ready for dinner, and the nurse were just chilling, not bothering to hurry. They weren't running some fancy restaurant, so if Teeth didn't wake up soon, he'd totally miss out. He looked down at the hospital food in front of him. Ash blinked awake, his eyes barely creeping open. A woman with big, curious eyes leaned over him. She noticed something was off, staring at his eyes like she was trying to figure out what was going on. She wondered if he felt strange or if something was up with him. Ash jerked back, kind of spooked. That really got to him. Her eyes seemed normal, at least that's what she thought. If something felt off, maybe it was just his face that was throwing things off. His face. He was pretty sure he'd already fixed up all the dude's injuries. He looked in the mirror and thought he didn't look as good as he used to. He wondered if they messed something up. He even joked to himself, asking if they did plastic surgery here. She blinked, kind of entertained. He definitely stood out, way bolder than most guys. She decided to give him a shot and hang out for a bit just to see if they'd vibe. She just nodded like it was no big deal. This lady had all the skills: eyelid tweaks, nose jobs, shaving down bone, fixing up chins, whatever someone wanted. She even joked about being able to turn people into something totally different. Her favorite move was this thing called the technique, which she said really made people's eyes stand out. The newest one, Sugar Bunny Lips, actually makes your mouth taste sweet for real. Ash started stressing. Wait, he didn't even have any cash on him. Her smile shifted into something kinda creepy. She made it clear she wasn't after his cash, she just wanted him. There's no one else here, just you. He hears it. Ash just stopped dead in his tracks. His brain was lagging, like seriously they'd just met and now this. He started second-guessing everything, even wondering who or what he was actually dealing with. She reached out, her voice calm but honestly kind of scary. She told him he just had to let her handle things, no strings attached, no cash needed. Ash stood there, arms crossed, not backing down. He wondered what would happen if he flipped it and made her pay him instead. She paused for a second, actually thinking it over. She wondered how much money was on the table. He just watched as the guy hyped himself up, saying he was a silver tier healer with 3 spirit links. Not your average doctor for sure. Dude was strong, didn't charge anything, and actually seemed pumped to help. Ash threw his hands up, backing off a little. He wasn't trying to start anything, just curious. In his world, he'd heard people say that nothing's really free. If someone hands you something for free, you'll end up paying for it in some other way. The woman stopped messing around and got serious. She told him straight up if he let her do the surgery, there was a small chance something could go wrong. Ash stared at her like he couldn't believe what he just saw. He didn't buy it for a second. He'd heard that excuse way too many times. She started talking fast, clearly hyped about how things worked here. In this world, medicine was all about spirit craft. It wasn't anything like back home. As long as someone wasn't totally dried out, healers could drain blood, clean out the bad parts, and then use a spirit sigil to heal wounds on the spot, like nothing even happened. Most healers usually use this water-type power called aqua therapy, but honestly it's got a bunch of problems. Sometimes things just start growing way more than anyone expects. Aqua therapy doesn't just stay the same, it levels up over time. When a healer helps more people, their power gets sharper and faster, and it can even turn into something called a dual-wing spirit link. The healer encouraged him to keep showing up, promising that things would get better if he stuck with it. Ash stood there not really sure what to do while the woman just kept going, totally hyped. Shattered Lake Prison was wild. Every day someone was getting wrecked, barely making it out. For anyone who wanted to level up, this was the spot. Non-stop action, perfect for grinding. It was basically a gamer's dream if you wanted to get strong fast. Turns out the society wasn't just about pitting inmates against each other for fun. They were running a whole business, using prisoners as repeat EXP grinders. This place was just straight up pay to win, but in real life. Ash thought it was wild they were giving out free treatment without asking for anything back. He couldn't help but laugh to himself. Who runs a place like this? His own company definitely made more money. Plus, he wondered why they couldn't at least bring in some better-looking doctors. She looked around, pretty hyped about the place. For her, this spot was all about tradition. There was some real meaning behind it. He started thinking about what could actually go down if something messed up during surgery. Imagine waking up and realizing you're missing a few pieces. Yeah, not great. At that point, would anyone really want to throw hands with a face like his? Probably not. He started thinking about how often surgeries actually mess up. He knew it almost never happened, just a super slim chance, like barely even worth thinking about. Ash didn't bother hiding how annoyed he was. He just called out how bad the service was, not holding back at all. He figured the guy probably got tired of people complaining outside, so he decided to chill in the prison where nobody could actually report him. She looked totally fed up. He'd already fixed them up, but she was still fuming like she couldn't believe it. Even after getting help, those guys kept whining and messing around everywhere. He knew some of the problems weren't on him. He handled the basics, but they just kept asking for random extra stuff. She let out a quiet sigh, her shoulders dropping as she realized her moves still weren't landing like she wanted. Ash let out a sigh. He figured the real issue was that the guy never spoke up enough. He always spoke so quietly that people barely noticed him. At work, the patients just walked all over him, never satisfied no matter how hard he tried, even when he didn't charge them. Someone decided it was time to show him how to handle things. If he can't catch what someone said, he just owns it, stands tall, head up, and says it so everyone knows he's not embarrassed at all. First, you start off with the basics. Next, you gotta spot what's off about the person. If someone looks really good, just say they're out every night. If they're super skinny, point out they need to eat better. If they aren't much to look at, say they need more attention. If they're on the bigger side, just blame it on eating too much. No matter who it is, there's always something you can call out. Nobody's perfect. There's always a weak spot you can poke at. When he steps up and takes charge, people start to see him as the real deal. They actually feel lucky if he looks out for them. So even if things go sideways, they won't point fingers at him. They'll actually have his back. He understood. After every surgery from now on, he just let people know he gave it his all. She quietly let it out that she really tried her best. Ash just sprawled out on the operating table looking totally relaxed. He acted like everything was under control and didn't bother explaining. He got up, ready to grab some food, acting like he already had this whole PUA thing down and wasn't worried at all. He figured if someone pulled that mind game stuff at a real job, they'd totally get canned. But for her, barely scraping by as a volunteer healer, it was probably the only thing that kept her going. Ash started to head out, but right then the woman stopped him. She leaned in, looking a bit careful but also curious, and asked if he was sure he didn't want any cosmetic work done. She glanced at her reflection, thinking about what had just happened. In her head, she wondered if walking around like this was kinda crossing the line for everyone else. Ash watched the students flipping what the teacher taught them back on her, and he was honestly impressed. In his head, he figured that if she ever joined his company, she'd totally be team leader. He flashed a quick grin, thinking he looked way better than that crow-faced dude. He figured next time he'd definitely come out on top. The woman got all worked up and fired back at him. She really thought she looked fine and honestly believed he was the one who was ugly. Out of nowhere, she realized she had something for him and passed over a small tag. Ash just took it, kind of surprised she had it ready for him. He always wore his D-tag, never taking it off, not even when he crashed for the night. With that thing on, everyone could tell he was under someone's protection. Ash checked her out quickly, eyebrow up, kind of sizing her up. He wanted to know what she really was, like what kind of person or race, and if she was a guy or a girl. Ash didn't really care most of the time, but he made it clear that if things got too wild, he was definitely bumping up the price. He never bothered with cosmetic surgery, just kept showing up the same every day. Walking around looking like that, it was pretty much asking for trouble. Dudes would probably call him out for a fight nonstop. Since his name was on the line, if things went south and the guy got wrecked, he'd get first dibs at handling it. If his face got completely messed up, he'd even step in to patch him up himself. She didn't waste any time and nudged Ash straight toward the cafeteria. She wanted him to hurry up and grab his food before everything shut down. Ash looked over his shoulder. He wondered if when he showed up again, someone would hook him up with a sliced apple. She laughed, then told him he could just pay her back by letting her try out her makeup skills on his face. Ash waved goodbye, nodding like they'd definitely meet up for lunch someday. He tossed out a casual see you and thanked them, promising next time would happen for real. He got what he wanted and couldn't help but feel a little proud. In the office, he knew the drill, always start by asking for small favors. People like knowing they're useful, it's just how it is. Pulling off that move got him Employee of the Month 6 times in a row, plus a bonus that covered half the year. Someone shouted from down the hall, asking why he was still hanging around. She looked over her shoulder and let him know a patient just woke up, so that held her back for a moment. He handed over his ID tag and got the next treatments lined up. His coworker suddenly shot him a look, instantly suspicious. She let out a breath, kind of annoyed. Everyone knew the drill, no talking to inmates ever. Their identities were supposed to stay on lockdown. If the Human Rights Association caught wind of what they did here, the council would get wrecked, no questions asked. Her coworker nudged her, making sure she remembered to get back to her room fast. That blood art project, the one that had to be 11 inches, had a deadline before the weekend. He made it clear just because she had some skills didn't mean she could chill or slack. If the supervisor hadn't given the green light, she wouldn't have even scored a spot here. She wondered if her senior was just nitpicking on purpose, maybe trying to flex some authority and remind her who's boss. She let out a breath. She knew she got in because the supervisor pulled some strings, not because she wasn't good enough. But no matter what she did, people kept throwing it in her face. He actually had a point. Ash bounced back way faster than most people. While she was helping him heal, she couldn't help but notice his muscles, definitely not bad at all. She just kept that thought to herself. She smirked, looking like she was hoping that guy would finally get what's coming to him. While Ash sat there eating, he couldn't help but let out this half-hearted grin. He figured after all that madness, maybe he'd be a little further from the edge. But honestly, nothing had changed. He was still right where he started. He picked up 45 contribution points, but that didn't get him out of the Blood Moon trial coming up. Usually, if your contribution score is high, you get to go later, but only if some specific stuff lines up. Looked barely awake, just kind of lifting his cup without much energy. At this place, everyone's got to go through their first Blood Moon trial, no skipping out. Only the people who make it through get their rankings shuffled, depending on how much they actually contributed. With 8 people in the game, he figured his chances weren't too bad, just one person wouldn't make it, so the odds felt alright. But then it sank in. Ash Heath, the notorious guy who ran the 4-pillar cult and caused chaos for thousands, was now the one everyone was talking about. His trial was about to become the highlight of the whole show. Flashed a sly grin, totally messing around. He tossed out the idea that if anyone was about to quit, they could just hand over their hard-earned points to him. He'd take those points, flex his win, and chill with his boyfriend, no regrets. Ash wasn't having it, though. He basically shut it down and looked ready to prove everybody wrong. He wasn't planning to back out anytime soon. Barely looked awake, stretching out his hands without much energy. He was basically just waiting to see if anyone was down for a challenge. Ash lifted his eyebrows, starting to get what was up. Now it made sense why the other person had been hanging around in the cafeteria, just waiting for him. He noticed a guy with 37 points from 36 matches wanted to take him on. Nodded, totally getting it. Most of the time, older players don't care about newbies with barely any matches. They're just not worth the hassle. So he couldn't help but wonder if this guy had some kind of beef with him. Ash looked around, trying to figure out who was there. Ran his tongue around the edge of his cup, taking his time before dropping the name. He wondered if he was really about to take on's challenge. Ash wondered what kind of weapon actually uses. She just popped up out of nowhere, sword in hand, laughing like it was no big deal. Ash frowned, annoyed, pretty sure someone was watching him again. He cocked his head with a sly grin, clearly up to something. The thought crossed his mind, if he could reach out and touch her, maybe she could do the same. Still, before anything else, he figured she should probably hit the shower first, just saying. She pulled out her sword, clearly not cool with what just got said. Ash felt the pressure as he glanced over at. He wanted to let No clean up and be ready for him tomorrow. Waved with a big smile, then dipped out fast. She said she had to go because her boyfriend was waiting, and told everyone she'd see them tomorrow at the society. Just like that, she was gone. Ash watched him leave, confused. That path goes straight to the hall, shouldn't he be heading for the couple's quarters instead? Right then the sword started moving, basically telling him to tag along. It was time to head back to the dorm. She shot him a sneaky grin, pretty much saying there's no way he's getting to bed early tonight. She was about to pull him into something totally new, a whole vibe he'd never seen before. His cheeks turned bright red. He started thinking, what's this world she's talking about that he hasn't seen? Did he really come off like someone with zero experience? That woman was wild for saying stuff like that. If she kept running her mouth, he'd lose all respect in front of everyone. It was 8:45 p.m., and everything was happening inside the society. Picked up a big chunk of meat and couldn't help but smile. Ash went for it. It wasn't about the name. He just really wanted to see if he'd get a swordsman. In the dark, a figure dipped his head, kind of like a quick thanks. He wanted the other guy to know this was a favor, basically time to pay up. He started wondering why little Ash got picked out all of a sudden. That name kept popping into his head, and he couldn't help but think there had to be a connection. Just shrugged, acting chill about it, like he was totally fine sharing as long as the other person could handle whatever was coming. Brushed him off, basically saying he and his boyfriend were good, and had no interest in dealing with all the drama that comes from getting involved with the big shots. People started whispering, wondering if Ash was actually the leader of the four-pillar cult. Honestly, he just looked like some new kid on campus. Most thought he seemed harmless. The other guy just shrugged it off, thinking anyone who ends up in this dump probably isn't some saint anyway. Just locked it in. Ash Heath is down for the fight. His tone went ice cold. He wanted that hit to mess up the guy so bad that not even a two-wing art spirit could put him back together. Stepped up with no emotion on his face, just straight up serious. He agreed to go along with what they wanted, but he wanted to know when he'd get what he was owed. The answer came back just as icy. If Ash Heath didn't make it past tomorrow's Blood Moon Tribunal, would be out of this prison for good. But there was a catch: he and the kid couldn't hang around city. That was non-negotiable, straight from Mr. Clenched his jaw, totally annoyed. He couldn't stand the thought of being anywhere near. Free time was wrapping up, and the guard told everyone it was time to head back to their cells. The guard watched the elf death row inmate get taken away and couldn't help but smirk. To him, seeing a prisoner try to act all high and mighty was just straight up pathetic. While all that was going on, Ash was chilling in his room with the Sword Maiden. The two of them were deep in conversation, talking about stuff that was definitely not for kids. The Sword Maiden shot a quick smirk. She had two things to say. Starting off, she dropped some good news. He'd be chilling in a place covered by the government, and yeah, it's for life. There was always this threat hanging over him. Any day, guards could just show up and drag him off to be executed. She kept going, reminding him what he'd already seen. Even that monk guy who made his body tougher than anything still couldn't do anything. With that chip stuck in his neck, getting out just isn't happening. Ash nodded. He knew that even if he somehow escaped, the chip would still be tracking him non-stop. He wondered if cutting out the skin on his neck would actually do anything. She just shook her head. That miracle chip wasn't just in one spot, it was everywhere. Bones, nerves, muscles, the whole thing was locked into her. Ash tried to figure out if there was any way to get rid of it without doing anything wild. He started thinking about magic or maybe some sneaky sorcerer move, just in case there was a shortcut. The Sword Maiden gave a chill little smile. She knew there were a bunch of ways this could go, but honestly the one he'd probably end up with was the Sword Miracle. She basically told him to go for it and cut her down. Sever Me is this swordsman move that's basically a lifesaver when things get rough. Even though it's just a silver tier skill, 1 wing level, it can still wipe out those annoying effects from 2-wing art spirits. If someone pulls off Sever Me, every negative effect or miracle chip gets cleared right away. That's really the only shot at getting out of a tough spot like that. The Sword Maiden explained that before anyone could pull off a miracle, they needed something called an art spirit. She also mentioned that there are 4 different ways to get one. At first, people could basically tap into the void by learning a ton and syncing up with it, turning what they learned into something real. But that option is off the table for him now. The miracle chip already broke his connection to the void, so it doesn't matter how hard he tries or how much he studies, he's never going to get that resonance. Next up was spirit trading. She just shrugged, not really expecting much, since honestly he didn't have anything cool enough to offer. Third, you'd have to take out a caster and grab their spirit. Usually that only goes down when a servant sneaks up and takes out their master in the middle of, well, stuff, and honestly that's not really his vibe. There's really just one way forward for him now. He's got to step into the void on his own and track down a wild spirit. That's the only shot he's got. Ash wondered how he was supposed to get into the void. She explained that the only way was to unlock the gate of truth inside a spirit's core, and somehow push your mind past the barrier to the other side. Ash paused, realizing he was kind of stuck. He needed a spirit to get into the void, but the only place to find one was inside the void itself. He let out a tired sigh. It was kind of like when you just finished college, all hyped to start working, and then every job post you see wants 3 years of experience, total letdown. He realized he was stuck. Without a spirit, getting into the void was impossible, but he needed the void to even find a spirit in the first place. It was like being trapped in an endless loop, and it honestly just felt hopeless. The sword maiden just smirked, like she already knew a cheat code. She basically showed that you don't always have to use your own spirit to get in. He totally spaced on it. She looked at him, eyes shining, and reminded him that she already had a spirit. That meant she could tap into the void whenever she wanted. Since they'd gone through the handbook together, their souls were pretty much linked up, so bringing him along was going to be a breeze. Ashas paused, confused by what he just saw. He didn't expect it to work like that. The sword maiden got heated. She couldn't believe he didn't even bother to check it himself. She just lost it right then. Ash scrunched up his face, trying to figure out when the system suddenly had a new feature. She wanted's ticket and wasn't trying to wait around. Ash checked the prompt, then looked over at her. She didn't even flinch, just sat there totally unfazed. He'd already checked his side, so he just wanted the other guy to hurry up and hit his. He was clearly in a rush. The sword maiden turned around without saying much. She was already heading out, focused on getting things ready, while he just stayed put, waiting for what was next. Ash stood there, totally lost on what he was supposed to get ready for. He had a ton going on, stuff only someone with real experience would get. He snapped back, not getting why anyone would think he hadn't been with someone before. He just sat there, not saying a word, chilling and waiting for whatever was gonna happen next. He knocked out pretty fast. Honestly, Ash was wiped after everything that happened today. 3 hours out, under the stars in the girls' dorm at university was quiet. He was totally wiped out and just wanted to crash. He glanced at, wondering if she wanted to hit the shower first or if he should go. Said she'd handle it since she had to do laundry anyway. She noticed he could barely stay on his feet, so she told him to just sit down and chill for a bit. During the day, he went through classes, got some sparring in, and then trained with his sword at night. On top of all that, he kept grinding to get the hang of the wave blade spirit. His whole day stays stacked, barely a second to chill. Training with isn't something you hear every day. This guy's already known as one of the top 10 sword saints in Olive, and people call him the hidden hand for a reason. He could even level up to 4-wing legend status soon, and if that happens, basically set up as the apprentice of a straight-up legend. Just gave a small smile. She knew Professor hadn't picked her as his apprentice yet. He just saw something in her, that's all. She already decided she'd go talk to him herself tomorrow and wasn't about to sit around waiting on anyone else. He knew he was right on the edge of breaking the 10 rings. As soon as he called his first spirit, the Sword Arts Division would finally hook him up with all their resources. He was even thinking he might actually level up and close the gap. Let out a sigh. She was honestly glad he showed up when he did. If not, she would have been totally lost on how to say no to Philly. Just felt too small for her now. She figured she'd end up joining eventually. For now, she decided chasing romance could take a back seat while she focused on leveling up her sword skills. Professor put his name down for the sword tournament without even asking. Now he'd get to check out their place and train there. From here on out, he figured he'd be bouncing between and a lot. He realized he'd be hanging out with all those top dudes from Nexus soon. If any of them turned out to be good-looking, he knew he'd have to let his friend know. Laughed to herself, thinking there's no way she could forget her roommate after everything they'd been through together this past year. It's been wild, non-stop chaos, jokes, and late-night stories with. He spotted the girls practicing their water skills again. Honestly, he couldn't help but feel a bit jealous. Water arts just seemed so chill and smooth, and it always looked like something the girls had down to an art. He decided to skip the shower and just crash for the night, figuring he'd clean up in the morning. Right now, the meditation hall was calling him. Tonight was his first time heading into the void, and he wanted to be ready. He sent out a quick goodnight before heading out. He couldn't help but notice how that girl from the countryside was acting like she owned the place now that things were going her way. He figured shouldn't stress about it, sooner or later. All that cockiness was bound to backfire. He took the L this time. That girl from the village was already way ahead of him, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't catch up. If things kept going like this until graduation, he'd have to admit she was better. He just stood there, not buying it at all. In his mind, there was no chance he could ever beat her. Pulled up at the university meditation tower not too long after. His mind was racing, and he could tell the spirit was hyped too. No surprise, since this place was blessed by the Star Veil Archon. He wondered if she'd stick around when he stepped into the unknown. She admitted she was pretty much out of cash, almost like she was embarrassed to say it. The end observer showed up, looking totally unimpressed. He pointed out that this was overtime and made it clear he wanted to get paid. Smiled to herself, thinking she was her own best asset. That was exactly what he needed. Right then, he knew he was officially on the team. Since he hadn't graduated yet, this was just a trial run. There wasn't any contract or cash coming in. As they walked together, she pointed out how much time he'd put into her, always showing up in her dreams to train and teaching her stuff in real life too. She knew he probably wanted something back for all that effort. He told him straight up that all he needed to do was survive. She repeated those words, totally lost. He laughed to himself, but he wasn't serious. Honestly, he knew he wasn't as strong as before. Exploring the void alone just wasn't happening now. He realized he'd have to count on someone else to watch his back. Out of nowhere, ended up in this weird, unknown place. She closed her eyes and zoned out, slipping into that deep focus mode. She blacked out, sinking deep into this empty void where nothing made sense. She called out for the observer, her voice shaky and desperate. He heard a quiet voice telling him not to stress. Whatever was going on, it was like their lives were already linked, and nothing could break that connection. Right then, the Sword Maiden noticed she and the End Observer were both just standing on this tiny wooden boat. She checked out the void and realized it was just like the stuff she'd read about in school. It was the Sea of Knowledge, but some people called it the Silver Sea or even the Primordial Ocean. No matter if someone was a total genius or just starting out, if they had 6 wings or only one, this was the spot where everyone took their first shot at the void. He noticed his reflection looked fuzzy, which threw him off for a second. Then he realized he was rocking the same dark coat from his own drawing. Not gonna lie, it looked pretty cool on him. Spotted a random boat and couldn't help but think this wasn't what the textbook promised. They were supposed to show up with nothing, not even clothes. Most people just jump right in and swim straight through the ocean. No boats, nothing fancy. The End Observer stood there with his arms crossed, finally understanding what was going on. He realized the guy's mind had basically split. One side turned into this solid, heavy soul thing and the other became a quick, flexible version of his mind. The ship was like his soul and the person on it was his mind. The soul handled the journey, carrying him through everything, and honestly, it all just clicked. Raises one eyebrow like she's daring him to show what he's got. Getting on was easy. If he guessed right, there was no way off this boat. Hit the water without hesitating, going all in. A few minutes later, she got back on the boat, dripping wet but looking pretty proud of herself. Turns out she was wrong. She realized she could just leave whenever she wanted. This boat wasn't some deep part of her or anything. He realized even the observer could mess up once in a while. The observer just stood there locked in, eyes stuck on this person who looked flawless, even soaked from head to toe. Socked him right in the head. He rubbed the growing bump, staying serious. He honestly didn't get why everyone was freaking out over a boat. Yeah, there definitely is. With a boat like this, drowning isn't even on the table. Drowning isn't something to mess with, she just lost it. For casters, that's actually the way most of them end up dying. For every caster out there, diving into the void was the key step if they wanted to level up. That's where pretty much all the big moments started, miracles, new powers, everything. Most casters ended up spending years trying to unlock whatever secrets the deep had. Nobody really knew what would happen if someone died in this place. The End Observer just kept it and asked, almost like he didn't want anyone else to hear. The End Observer just laid it out. If someone dies here, their mind's out of commission for 3 whole days before they're back to normal. The Sword Maiden gave a quick nod. Dying in the void messes you up on a whole other level. If your soul's strong, it actually hits even harder, and getting back to normal takes a lot longer. For beginners, it's just 3 days, but if someone's already silver tier, they're grinding for at least 2 weeks. Gold tier, now that's months of work. For casters at the domain or legendary level, bouncing back can take years. Not being able to check out the void slows your progress big time, almost to a crawl. That's the reason casters ended up picking sides on how to handle it. The careful guys always moved slow and planned out every step. When the gamblers hit the jackpot, they're popping champagne and living it up. But if you lose, you're just there in the background, basically part of the scenery while everyone else celebrates. The End Observer stood there, scratching his head, not really sure what was going on. Having a boat made things way easier, but something about it just seemed way too overpowered, almost like he found a hidden glitch. The observer started thinking hard, wondering if there was some kind of cheat going on, maybe something connected to the caster's manual. He pulled up the manual, thinking it wouldn't work out here, but it popped right up like normal. He was kind of surprised it still ran in the middle of this void. What got him even more hyped was that it came with its own guide on how to get around in the void. Out of nowhere, the boat started shaking hard, almost like the whole thing was getting hit by an earthquake. He told to chill and let him take care of it, raising his voice to get her attention. She just smirked, acting like she already had everything figured out and knew exactly what to do next. After he finished reading the tutorial, he quietly mumbled to himself. She let out a breath, kind of expecting this. Nobody else ever managed to figure out a solid way to get around the void. Even Professor just shrugs like there's no answer for that. She pointed out that in this place, it doesn't matter who you are, every caster's on the same level. In the void, nobody really knows more than anyone else. There's just one thing he had to keep in mind. She laid it out straight. Keep moving no matter what. If he stood still too long, his real heart would just quit on him, and not even the best healer could bring him back. Out in the void, stopping meant his body would basically give up, thinking he was already gone. The End Observer just laughed to himself. He couldn't believe Sword Maiden was actually scared of dying. He always figured she was that fearless type who loved all the attention, always living for the hype. She thought about how things used to be. Back then she was all in, didn't have anything holding her back, but now everything had changed. She lifted her chin, feeling pretty proud of herself. Being called a swordsmanship prodigy hit different, especially since Professor himself said most people need like 20 years just to hit gold and 40 for domain. In the kingdom, guys with 2 gold wings get minor noble status without even breaking a sweat. That's the dream he's been chasing forever. If he ever manages to hit that 3-wing level, he could start up his own academy and actually build a name that sticks around long after he's gone. He gets that aiming high comes with its own rewards. She knew it too, always giving him that little smile. He figured sticking with what he had was its own kind of win. Playing it safe just made sense to him. Word was, heading for the pale mist was the move if you wanted to stay out of trouble in the void. Right then, the boat picked up speed out of nowhere. The observer just pointed ahead, making it clear they were headed in that direction. Couldn't believe it when she saw he could actually control the boat he brought. He started thinking about why he got set up to dive into the ocean in the first place. The observer just realized he actually had control over it now. He tried to make that clear, wanting everyone to know he wasn't messing around. Out of nowhere, just stopped moving. She noticed the mist around her and started wondering what was going on. She stretched out her hand and these faint beams of light slid right into her skin. Out of nowhere, all the sword skill info started loading into her head. Turns out, just drifting through the void actually lets a caster pick up all that knowledge. All that new knowledge turned into silver mana, shaping up into the mark that showed he was now a silver tier caster, the Silver Wings. Was totally into it, soaking up every bit of new info like it was the best thing ever. Ash just looked like some dude trying to sneak a look at his game map in the middle of class, totally not paying attention. He looked at the screen and saw those words pop up. Useless effort, dead end, better just stay put. His eyes lit up. That spot was basically calling his name, no doubt the quest marker. Right then spotted something up ahead. When they got closer, she suddenly realized there was an island up ahead. He recognized it right away. It looked exactly like the spot where he and his friend had done that weird dream test together. He gets why the guy's so sure of himself. He's already been through the whole void thing before, used it for practice runs. Nobody could figure him out. This guy was just built different, always watching and somehow way stronger than anyone expected. Before long, they landed on the island. Their shoes hit the ground and right then, the mist started to fade away. Standing in front of them was this middle-aged guy, rocking old-school cowboy gear, and holding a revolver like he just walked out of a Wild West movie. He let everyone know his shot was fast if you were more than 7 steps away, but if you got any closer, his aim was dead on. Right after that, the gun went off. Ash yelled out thinking he just got shot and bracing himself for the pain. For a second he was freaking out, but then he realized it actually didn't hurt as much as he thought. He was out of breath, thinking his body felt like it just finished a 400-meter dash. He could tell he was starting to lose his energy. His eyes went wide when it finally clicked for him. This wasn't actually his real body. He was just here as a mind, not in the flesh. Getting shot didn't really hurt him. It just took away some kind of energy from his soul. The gunman whispered to himself, almost like he was counting off stats, 3,000 moves, but just one gun ready. For him, speed was everything. It could break through anything and hit any target. Lifted her sword and rushed forward. She sent out a wave slash, cutting through the air like it was nothing. Out of nowhere, the end observer came up behind the gunman and grabbed him. This was Sword Maiden's moment. She had to move now. Spots her chance and just goes for it, pushing her blade straight through his head. The faded away into mist, and both guys dropped to the ground, totally wiped out. There was this old book on the ground, giving off a soft glow. Nobody expected it. The observer grabbed the thing and his eyes went wide. It was a Legacy Isle, basically an OG guidebook. That book was the gunman's personal caster manual. Carbine probably owns this notebook. So on this last page, that medal right there, that's what he actually earned. He checked out the skill Rapid Fire, One-Wing Spirit. The catch, you gotta have a ranged weapon. When you use it, you get to pull off a second shot right after the first, no pause. Plus, just having it makes your long-range game even better. Getting the timing right matters a lot. If he's even a little late, he could end up running after that chance forever. He realized this was a spirit, then suddenly noticed a random pop-up on his screen. He spotted real cash and switched it over to points right away. He realized he could actually add more to his balance. Finally, there's a currency the system takes seriously. That was a relief, so he decided to chill for a sec. In this world, this thing he just got is basically the main key to leveling up. Every caster out there wants one. It's called a spirit core. He looked over at Sword Maiden, checking if she was down to take the spirit. He grabbed it without hesitating, like he'd been waiting for this moment. He stared at the spirit, not really believing it was real. He wasn't sure if he even wanted anything to do with it. He looked at the spirit and realized it wasn't a sword type or a general type, so it wouldn't help him out at all. Keeping it would just drain his cash for no reason. He wondered why everyone was bringing up cash like it actually mattered here. He wondered if the observer was just messing with him for not having money. The observer could travel anywhere, yet didn't even get something this basic. Maybe the observer was one of those people who never had to stress about feeding their spirits because they were just built different. Let out a sigh. She couldn't believe she was actually seeing someone from a group that barely existed anymore. Spirits gotta eat too, but their food's a little different. They chow down on real cash. The one-wing ones go for silver coins, while the two-wing types only mess with gold. If these spirits don't get food, they just start disappearing. Some unlucky casters actually end up losing their spirits because they can't feed them. You could use items to level them up, but every spirit wants its own thing, which gets confusing fast. Honestly, just spending cash is way simpler. Having a spirit hanging around basically zaps your brain power. Thought having a bunch of spirits at once was like dudes trying to date way too many girls, burns through your wallet and leaves you exhausted. He knew that spirits basically drain your cash and mess with your head, so he always went for quality instead of stacking up a bunch of weak ones. That was his real working-class caster mindset. Keep it simple, keep it strong. Every spirit has its own limits on how you can use it. Because of that, they're split up into different groups, like sword spirits, gun spirits, body types, fist types, and a bunch of others. Spirits that don't have crazy requirements or that anyone can use get called general spirits. Eagle Eye is one of those. If you've got eyes, you're set. Most casters usually roll with a combo of specialized spirits and some that work for anything. But if you go all in on more than 2 types, it just doesn't work out. Even the general spirits got to pull their weight, no room for dead weight here. He really couldn't care less, stuff like this just felt outdated to him. Even if he tried selling it back to the school, he'd maybe get a single silver coin tops. Sure, rapid fire was probably awesome back in the old flintlock days, but now, modern auto handguns fire 7 shots a second, way more intense. The end observer wasted no time and swapped the spirit right away. He checked his balance, top-up went through, 6 points left, just enough for 1 pull and a crystal core. Now he wondered if he should grab 3 source shards too. He noticed that 1 pull actually gave him 2 one-wing spirits. Transcendental powers are supposed to be next-level stuff, but for some reason, they're getting sold at prices you'd expect for entry-level jobs right out of college. The observer looked down at the notebook with a frown, checking it out like he was trying to figure out what kind of book he was even holding. Stared for a second, almost not knowing what to say. She pointed out that it was a caster's manual, surprised he really had no clue. The void keeps track of everything a caster does, almost like an auto journal, but you don't get to choose what goes in. It just logs your life for you, no option to turn it off. When a caster dies, their soul just bounces straight back to the void, showing up as a ghost version of themselves. All their memories basically turn into a book, just like how everyone's born and eventually dies. That's just how things work, no way around it. He realized the caster's manual didn't work like any game he'd played before. This setup was way different from what he was used to. On side, casters could straight up absorb a manual, kind of like how metal gets absorbed. When someone did that, they'd unlock a random skill from whoever used to own it, and this skill wasn't tied to any specific magic type. The end observer just held it out super chill, instantly started waving her hands, backing off. She didn't even want to mess with it, saying she got dizzy just from reading a couple pages. She broke it down for him. Casters' manuals are seriously dangerous stuff. You can only take in the ones that actually line up with how you see the world and what you believe in. Try to force one that doesn't fit and it'll mess you up bad, could even tear apart your mind or ruin you from the inside out. Most casters spend forever flipping through manuals, barely finding 1 or 2 they can actually use without messing themselves up. Some people never even get one that works for them at all. But this guy, every single book he picks up just works, no weird side effects, nothing. It's like he's built different. He just blinked, looking like he had nothing to hide. Maybe he was just chill about everything. Just rolled her eyes, thinking maybe his idea of right and wrong could bend way too easily. She let out a deep breath, finally taking it all in as the skill popped up. Counter-surveillance mastery unlocked. Right then, the ground under them started dropping, and the whole island was going down. Looked out into the void, thinking about how everything there just comes and goes so fast. Nothing really sticks around except what you learn along the way. There are tons of old islands just floating around out there, each one packed with secrets, just waiting for someone to show up and claim them. As soon as someone takes the legacy, though, the island just sinks back down and disappears. Every caster drops their signature out here somewhere in these waters. You never know, one day you might bump into a gun caster from way back, or even run into some ancient sage who's been around forever. Someday someone else is gonna step up, push through that white fog and deal with everything they left hanging. She barely got the words out when this huge sea monster shot up from under the water, tossing their tiny boat like it was nothing. The mudfish dragon let out a loud roar and launched a huge stream of water right at them. Nobody could believe it. Why did this thing suddenly bust out a water cannon? The guy at the end totally lost it, but there was no time to freak out. Just yelled, hoping someone actually knew how to drive the boat. The boat was upside down in the water now. He just stared at it like, what did they expect him to do, run the whole ocean or something? Somehow, right in front of the creature, the little wooden boat suddenly kicked into gear and shot forward, going full speed. He nodded, focused on the path ahead. If they kept moving that direction, they could probably ditch whatever was chasing them. They switched on exploration mode and kept going until they finally rolled up to a spot that actually looked safe. Trouble popped up again. After almost an hour just floating around with nothing happening, the two figured they might as well check out the spot on the map labeled "Better Not Go There." Things definitely started to get interesting. Looked over and wondered if taking out that mudfish dragon would just solve everything. The observer just stared with a blank face. If they couldn't figure it out, there was no way he was about to pull it off. He realized the almighty observer wasn't as tough as everyone thought. This was his shot to get even for all the times his mind got messed with. Needed to chill for a second. Getting caught up in petty payback, wasn't it? She had to think bigger and not lose sight of what actually mattered. Realized that even though the guy wasn't as strong as he expected, there was nothing he could do to push back. The dude had him locked down, like totally in control. Not even Professor seemed to notice what was happening, which was wild. Whatever power this guy had, it was on another level. Nobody can get through the void's mist, that's just how it is. Because of that, all the casters are on the same level. With so much unknown, it's just pure risk versus reward and nobody gets an edge. Now there's actually someone out there who can see through all the secrets. Suddenly, the dudes at the top aren't untouchable anymore and the ones at the bottom have a shot to climb up. There's this one person who's on a whole other level above everyone else, just watching everything go down. If this dude's really that strong, it's wild that he keeps asking stuff that makes zero sense. Kept her guard up, not trusting him for a second. She knew if she let her guard down and bought into his whole sad act, the observer would just flip the script and hit her with some next-level mind game. Right at that moment, the end observer jumped in, bringing up the fish from earlier. Instantly started stressing out inside, she realized he was testing her again, wasn't making things any easier for her. She snapped right into her usual upbeat model student vibe. That monster was a mudfish dragon, which pretty much everyone knew about in the void. It's one of the go-to knowledge creatures. It could drop spirits from either the water or earth categories. Plus, if it ever took out another caster, there was a chance it'd drop that caster's spirit as well. The observer started sweating out of nowhere. He couldn't figure out why the sword maiden was suddenly going along with everything. He noticed how hyped she suddenly got, and that energy helped him start connecting the dots. Out in the void, there's just two smart types around, casters and these creatures called knowledge beasts. When someone takes down a knowledge beast, they get its spirit, which is basically a chunk of pure knowledge. The kind of spirit you get usually lines up with whatever magic that beast was into. Whenever someone in the real world comes up with a totally new theory, like some caster unlocking a fresh idea, that breakthrough can actually create a whole new kind of spirit out in the void. Now other casters can go after knowledge beasts that have that new patch update, and they get the latest spirit right away. When the new way of thinking is wild enough, it can actually switch things up in the void, dropping new knowledge creatures and making the hidden world even bigger. The observer made it clear, even if someone tries to keep their discoveries on lockdown, other casters out in the void can still find a way to get them. Nodded, pretty much agreeing that nobody can keep all the knowledge for themselves forever. That's the real reason everyone can stand on equal ground, because knowledge gets around and that's what keeps things fair. Nobody just chills and retires easy in this world, that's wild. Since everyone gets the same shot and the same info, any caster who wants to stay on top has to keep pushing themselves and trying new things. If they chill out, someone else is gonna pass them up. Casters pretty much work for life. The whole setup honestly just feels like the universe is keeping score on everyone. He didn't mind the observer grant at all. If casters were basically just workers, then he fit right in. When it came to putting in long hours and never getting tired, he always had that on lock. Stared at him super confused. She couldn't figure out why he suddenly looked so hyped. He wanted to know if Observer could check out what was hiding in the mist. He could tell something out there was serious trouble, but he had no clue what it actually was. Finding a golden fish isn't happening for you either. He looked at the tank, not really sure what he was seeing. A golden fish, that caught him off guard. Braced herself, her mind racing. She knew he was pushing her buttons, just waiting for her to slip up. If she talked back, he'd probably call her out for not being loyal enough and toss her straight into some brutal challenge. She took her time answering, her mind picturing this golden fish just chilling at the top of some endless sea of knowledge. On its back, there's this whole continent, like an entire world where two-wing casters train. Nobody really knows what the fish actually looks like. Its full form is a total mystery. People say that just one of its tiny scales is massive, like city-sized with enough space for 1 million people to fit inside. The observer blinked, trying to process it. If this thing is actually that massive, he couldn't figure out how people managed to lose track of it all the time. Said it was actually super rare. Barely anyone ever caught a golden fish, and the few who did, they all ended up as legendary casters. He tilted his head, curious about what would actually go down if the guy managed to find it. He just leveled up straight to a 2-wing caster, like it happened in an instant. He couldn't believe it, dude just leveled up out of nowhere. When a 1-wing caster pushes their power as far as it can go and their silver wing is fully out, regular moves through the sea of knowledge just don't recharge their spirit energy anymore. They have to hit the books, call up a 2-winged spirit, and then search inside that spirit to find the gate of truth. That's the only way to get to the void's second layer, the continent of time. On that continent, casters can level up by taking in stronger energy and growing their second set of spiritual wings, the golden wings. The observer nodded, taking it all in. 1-winged casters end up making silver wings in this whole sea of knowledge, while the 2-winged ones get golden wings over on the continent of time. He locked that info down. He wondered if someone with just 1 wing could just use someone else's 2-wing spirit and level up faster. Didn't budge, she made it clear, if someone else summoned the spirit, there's no shot you'll ever find the real truth inside it. Spirits are basically built from straight-up knowledge. If you don't get it, there's no way you're unlocking anything special. Getting your hands on the golden fish is pretty much like skipping all the hard parts. People usually call them stowaways, the ones sneaking up from the lower realms to the higher ones. Still can't spot that golden fish? Then quit whining and just focus on steering the boat. He didn't find anything, no monsters showed up either. Pretty soon, they noticed another small island up ahead. There was nothing risky going on, no hidden traps, no weird challenges waiting for him. There were just wild spirits messing around, caught up in the breeze and doing their own thing. Eyes lit up, she was in, no hesitation, and sprinted ahead to grab one. They both jumped in at the same time, each snagging just one spirit for themselves. Most of them just took off and disappeared, but the two they managed to grab totally calmed down, almost like they just gave up and were cool with whoever had caught them. Only humans or similar can use this one-winged spirit move. It lets you drop a flawless ghost copy of anyone you pick. The second something smacks the clone, it just breaks apart. If you copy someone with a mind of their own, the clone actually listens to what you tell it to do. The torrent one-winged spirit restriction only works if there's some unclaimed liquid close by, and when it kicks in, it blasts out something like a high-pressure shot. He could handle any water around him easily, thanks to his passive ability that let him control liquids nearby. These things are spirits, and one of them is basically a stand-in. That substitute is actually one of the main spirits needed to pull off the slash-me miracle. Didn't waste any time stepping up. She called dibs on the torn one, already thinking ahead about how much that spirit would go for at her academy. That's how the two called it a day and ended their first trip into the void. The end observer gave a quick wave, signaling goodbye to the sword maiden before heading out. Gave a quick sneaky smile, that was just what she wanted. He totally missed what she was thinking this time. She definitely didn't spill everything. Sure, the torrent spirit was rare, but the substitute spirit was straight up priceless. The stuff just sat there thick and weird, not really moving. It looked out of place, like something you'd see in a random viral video and wonder if it was real. The word spirit hangs in the air, setting the mood and hinting at something deep going on. He's a general type spirit, which puts him a whole level above the rest. He stood out more than anyone else, even if something isn't super popular, as long as it's not way too specific. The general with only one wing. Spirit goes for the same price as a two-wing specialized, which is kind of wild when you think about it. There's no script content to rewrite, just the word spirit. If you have more of the script, please share it. Specialized spirits only help out certain groups, but universal spirits are down to work with anyone. Walked back into that strange place and saw right away, the end observer had disappeared. She made sure the observer knew what she was about to do. Before heading to shower, she warned him to look somewhere else. He got nothing back, guess he actually dipped. Her patience snapped. She just set up the perfect trap and now he'd bailaid right after tasting the good part. The observer always acted like he owned the place, making things annoying for everyone else. Someone behind him spoke up, greeting with a quiet good morning. It was a senior at the school. She flashed a chill, welcoming smile his way. Spotting him getting ready for his first dive into the void, she could tell he was hyped. Both of them trained under the hidden saint, so had no choice but to run into Phoenix all the time. That's actually how she ended up meeting. Both of them had the same drive, always pushing to get ahead, almost like rivals going after the same target. Catching that rare beast was the plan, but when he showed up there was already a pro beast tamer there, all geared up and ready, like he'd been waiting the whole time. Not trusting him made sense. She showed off her spirit with confidence, barely able to hide how proud she was. This was the inheritance spirit she'd picked up the night before and she wanted everyone to see it. The spirit looked like a scabbard with only one wing and it came with a catch: you could only use it if you had a sword-type weapon. The real highlight, when teamed up with another sword spirit, every first move in a 10-second window hit way harder with a 150% boost. Size went wide, she was hype. The fit was spot on, like it was made just for her. The scabbard spirit could actually level up into something wild, a whole new style called the assassination sword. When you throw in crazy moves like sheath light resonance, ready stance, or that void piercing slash, the power boost was next level. Nothing else could really keep up with its burst potential. Casually checked in with him, wanting to know if Phoenix would be into something like this. She figured if he said yeah, she'd just roll with his opinion. She smiled and gave a quick pat on the shoulder. Had been grinding hard and everyone knew her family didn't have much. Making it into Sword Blossom University through the national exams was no joke, especially when most of the others were born and raised in Galaxy City. She really stood out. People figured she'd eventually get settled in the city and bring her family over, making a new start together. He let out a sigh, thinking how he could have gone way further if things were different. It kind of sucked, knowing his own family kept holding him back. Gave a small smile. She knew he was right. Sometimes, where you begin can really set the stage for where you'll end up. Girls from small towns like hers never really get to hide where they come from. She realized she'd been talking for ages without even washing up first. It hit her that maybe she came off a bit rude, but that's just how things went sometimes. She called out her torrent spirit, and water rushed down her face like a quick splash. Let out a relaxed sigh, finally feeling some relief. He flashed a quick grin, thinking back to when he got this during his first trip into the void. Honestly, he felt pretty lucky about it. Just stopped in her tracks, eyes wide. No shot a girl from the countryside would have a rare spirit like that. Stood up straight, looking like she just scored big. She found it on some random island, and yeah, it was an actual torrent spirit. Couldn't believe what just happened. On her very first trip into the void, she stumbled onto an encounter island, then out of nowhere, a torrent spirit popped up. That thing's super rare for water types. Seriously, what are the odds? He realized there was no way she could afford it, and even if she tried, torrent spirits just aren't for sale anywhere. If someone gave her that, it had to be a huge deal. Seriously, who at Sword Blossom University even has the cash to hand out something like that? Got lost in her own head for a minute. Meanwhile, grabbed her sword and stood up, ready to dip. She glanced back at for a second, then left without looking back. Phoenix showed up right then, had been hanging around like she was waiting for him to get there. The void always got him curious, and he couldn't help but grin thinking about it. He decided he'd check out the library to learn more, and figured it might be cool if someone tagged along. Gave Junior a warm smile, looking pretty chill and friendly. At 8 a.m., Ash woke up and figured he was probably the first one up in the whole place. He thought he'd start his day right, so he went and make himself a solid breakfast. He walked in expecting chaos, but the inmates were already up, stretching and munching on breakfast like they were at a chill wellness camp. Just seeing that made his head start pounding again. He realized his first spirit was actually a key part for unlocking the /me miracle substitute. He couldn't wait to see how it worked, so he decided to give it a shot right then. Out of nowhere, there was a sudden spike in mana that wasn't supposed to happen. Whatever he was trying to do just got shut down instantly. He remembered the chip in his body was stopping him from using mana, so if he wanted to pull off a miracle, he had to get around the chip somehow. But the catch was, he'd need to use a miracle just to clear out the chip in the first place. Once again, he found himself stuck in the same loop, like he just couldn't break out of it no matter what he tried. He wanted Sword Maiden Doryman to back him up. This time the Sword Maiden was nowhere to be seen. Ash let out a sigh. Typical, even his papers seemed to need a break sometimes. Ash spotted an orc casually heading off with 5 meal trays stacked in his arms. He paused for a second, realizing the other guy had 5. That didn't seem fair. The cafeteria lady just shrugged like it was nothing new. Workers always got 5, no questions asked. That's just how things went down. He realized there was nothing left for him, and honestly that just felt straight up unfair. He got a heads up on the screen, telling him he was about to do something that crossed a line with race. He realized it was straight up unfair. There's nothing you're allowed to do here. That kind of move just isn't allowed. In the Blood Moon Nation, everyone's treated the same, no matter where they come from. That's the #1 rule. He couldn't believe it, just calling out that an orc eats a lot was getting labeled as racism now. That sounded wild to him. He spotted an empty seat and thought he was set, but then saw the orc had already called dibs on both spots. He definitely looked like trouble, but the control chips made sure nobody could actually throw hands. Ash noticed the ogre was hogging 2 seats. He called him out, but the ogre just stared him down like he didn't care at all. Ogres get special treatment around here. He realized he couldn't just get shut down again. He realized that even talking about someone's but being too big could be seen as racist. He wanted to swear, but the words just wouldn't come out. He went to slam his tray down, but out of nowhere his arm just stopped working. He was fired up on the inside, but no matter what, he couldn't let it out. He tried to get up and do something, but his body just wouldn't move. Right then, he noticed that this so-called civilized prison actually made the rough world outside seem kind of harmless. Ash finished his breakfast super fast and headed straight over to the Dual Society. Spotted Ash and waved him over. He noticed Ash showed up earlier than usual and wondered if Ash had already grabbed something to eat. Ash just nodded, acting like it was no big deal. Then he stopped for a sec. That's when he realized had his boyfriend always looked that thin, it kind of caught him off guard. Stepped out from the darkness totally relaxed. He wasn't looking for a fight, just letting everyone know there was no reason to stress. Weren't his thing unless he already knew he could win. For him, it was all about taking risks, and if he lost, he just shrugged it off and moved on. He shot right back, his voice cutting through. Guys like that always try to play it smart, but honestly he couldn't trust someone whose thoughts were always in the gutter. Cracked a sly smile. He was done wasting time and wanted to jump right into things, picking the most classic way people have settled stuff since forever. He made a deal, if someone asked him a question, he'd ask one right back. Ash just frowned, clearly not interested in asking anything. His grin got bigger. He wondered if the other guy was even a little curious about why the elf wanted to go up against him. Wasn't sure if he'd get a straight answer or just get played, but at the end of the day, they were both putting themselves on the line. Ash paused for a second. He was definitely curious, but he wasn't sure if he could trust what he'd hear. If it's not the truth, what's the point anyway? Crossed his arms, giving off that vibe like he could spot a lie from a mile away. He always figured out what was really going on, no matter what people said. Even when someone tried to play the same game, he wasn't fooled. Ash waved him off, not buying it. He didn't think he was some genius, he just felt like he got played. Just stood there not saying a word. He blinked, totally caught off guard. He let out a sigh and figured he'd just drop the info. It was up to the other guy to decide if it was actually worth anything. He thought if it's really you, then answer one question, simple as that. Just said it straight up, it's because the guy's an elf. Out of everyone locked up in prison, he's the only one who skipped out on his first blood moon judgment. Been inside for 5 years and hasn't shown up even once. Ash's eyebrows pulled together. He couldn't believe this dude just skipped every trial just for being an elf. Wasn't this place supposed to be all about treating everyone the same, no matter what? Laughed to himself. Yeah, it's true, some folks definitely get better treatment than others. If you're wondering why the guy picked a fight, it's tied to the shady stuff he's done. He swiped pats and took out some people at work. Those are serious moves, but honestly, it's not the kind of thing that usually gets someone thrown into prison. The thing that really set off the higher-ups, he explained, was that he'd been raising a kid on the down low. He couldn't believe it. Apparently, raising a kid counted as the biggest crime here. Since it's against the rules, nobody's allowed to raise kids on their own. Nobody really raised them, so it made him wonder, how did he or anyone else even make it through growing up? Everyone in the Blood Moon Nation grew up in statron nurseries. It's just how things are done there. shot back, not having any of it. For them, this socialized way of raising kids is the core of their whole society, so someone questioning it sounded like they were just trying to stir the pot. Everyone grew up with the state handling everything, so basically everyone's background was the same. Ash wanted to say orphans without parents, but he just couldn't get the words out. He started digging around in his memories, hoping to find something, but realized there weren't even words for father or mother anywhere in his mind. He noticed the closest word he could find was just guardian. There weren't even words for parents at all, so it was pretty clear people didn't even have that kind of role here. State-run nurseries everywhere, and everyone's got these chips stuck in their necks. Ash just sat there thinking this place was seriously messed up. He started to realize the whole challenge happened just because of that kid. Gave a slow nod. For 5 years straight, had just minded his own business. He never went looking for trouble, but if someone tried him, he'd shut it down fast. That's pretty much why he's been chilling without any problems. He never usually takes charge, so the only reason he's getting involved now has to be the kid. The kid's already out of there, shipped off to a foster place with a bunch of other people around. Still, only one person really knows what's up with the kid, and as soon as he realized that, his eyes got serious. Taught history at university and also ran the Elf Rights Association. But what really mattered was that he was the advisor for university's Ancient Relics Research Society, the club Ash was pretty much glued to. Ash blinked, confused. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Was he really part of that group before? Kept it chill and just pointed out that he was technically still the president. He didn't have any real proof, but to him, it looked like there was something going on between the guy and definitely more than your usual teacher-student thing. Ash's face went serious. Hearing about the cult of the Four Pillars just clicked for him. Running a crew that organized had to have some big names behind it. Dahl came to mind right away. He had to be one of the ones helping in secret. Leaned in a bit, looking like he was ready for a real answer. He felt like he'd already put it all out there, so now it was on the other guy to talk. Deep down, though, already thought he knew what was up. He just wanted to know how someone actually pulled off tricking his tough side. Out on the arena, kept going, trusting his own way of reading his opponent. He would just tune in, picking up on what his opponent was really thinking, almost like he could hear their thoughts. This trick hardly ever let him down since, honestly, most people can't fake what's going on inside their own head. Ash couldn't believe it, really could hear what was going on in his head. Ash just stared, kind of thrown off, while looked tired of explaining. He let Ash know it only worked in the arena, like he could tune in to whatever Ash was thinking or feeling when they were fighting. Ash just shrugged, looking chill. He hadn't meant to mess with anyone. He honestly had no clue about that wild cheat skill. Thinking back, it made sense why he couldn't land a hit before. Just stared at him, totally deadpan. Honestly, how could this guy even think he looked decent while literally throwing a punch at its face? He thought it was totally possible to say someone looks good and still want to punch them. Like those two things aren't even connected. Usually had this ice-cold vibe, always claiming he could read people and figure out what they wanted most. If someone really wanted to swing at him, he'd know, he'd pick up on that urge right away. Meanwhile, Naughty was just standing there, looking decent without saying much. Ash suddenly realized what was happening and just smiled to himself. He'd totally spaced out, which honestly happened a lot. Sometimes his brain just drifted off, probably thinking about some chill art he'd seen online or something like that. He just threw it out there, totally unbothered, saying he honestly thought she looked good. Suddenly threw a punch, catching everyone off guard. Ash just shrugged it off when his daydream snapped, switching straight back to work mode. He knew that checking out spicy art always slowed him down, so he was ready to lock back in. Gritted his teeth, no way. The cult leader dude's a straight-up fighting prodigy who levels up while throwing hands, doesn't just space out like that. He figured he must heard it wrong. He noticed right away when she zoned out, but he wasn't fooled. He could still pick up on what she was really thinking. Ash gave a quick smirk, kind of like he knew something no one else did. He looked super confident, almost daring the other guy to prove him wrong. Ash was basically saying, yeah, you think you're all that, but maybe your powers aren't as crazy as you believe. He could always tell by looking at someone's face. If they suddenly got cold with him, he picked up on it right away. He knew when someone was capping. He crossed his arms, waiting for an answer. Whether it was real or fake, he could always spot the difference. Ash spoke up. He tried to stay chill, but honestly his mind was all over the place. The stuff he was saying straight up wasn't true. Just stopped in his tracks. His brain started spinning. If something was true, then it had to be a lie, right? But if it was a lie, did that mean it was actually true? He tried to make sense of it, but every time he thought he got it, it just flipped again. He couldn't tell what was real anymore and just got more and more confused. He sat there, brain doing laps, letting out a frustrated sound. Logic puzzles again. He remembered how job interviews always threw these at him, and honestly, he was so over it. On the other side, their elven lord was just chilling, while some orc totally bent the knee for him, showing mad respect and offering up the best blessing he had. The orc even went so far as to basically ask if he should lick the guy's shoes. He noticed how everyone was being nice to him online. It made him think these guys probably even clean up after themselves in the bathroom, real polite crew. The guys wondered if just called them. Just shrugged, acting like he was only giving props to people who actually clean up after messing up. He didn't get why the other guy was getting all defensive, almost like he got caught doing the same thing. Hit his breaking point and lost it, had pushed him way too far. He noticed the guy was talking kind of loud, and honestly he could smell that weird bathroom scent coming from him. Dude really seemed like he was into all sorts of stuff. Another oar snapped and started freaking out too. He wondered why the other guy was so on edge. He hadn't said anything bad about him. Earlier, when he took out the trash, he heard a dog barking nearby, probably just spooked one by accident. That line made every orc lose it at the same time. Stuff like this only goes down in Lake Break Prison. Geezer get creative with insults, no cussing, but still manage to push each other's buttons until someone snaps and gets muted by the chip. That's just how trash talk works on the inside. If he tried to swear, the chip would just shut down his voice right away. If he tried to fight back, the chip would just take over and move his body for him. Glanced over at Ash, waiting for a sign that everything was good to go. Once he saw Ash was ready, he made it clear it was time to get things started. Spoke up from behind, letting everyone know was way out of his league. Beating him wouldn't be as easy as pulling off a few sneaky moves. Ash gave a small smile, looking like he was ready to do things straight up this time instead of pulling any sneaky moves. He seemed pretty set on handling it himself. Ash stayed chill, barely showing any reaction. Deep down, he was confident there was no way the guy could take him out in one hit. He knew if he survived that first move, the next round would be his shot to turn things around. Just looked around annoyed. This place was straight up nasty, flies buzzing nonstop. He thought to himself, maggots never turn into anything cool. Even if a butterfly did show up here, it'd just end up looking like another bug in the mess. Ash just stood there, not moving, and the sword went straight through him. He's fast, way faster than expected. Even with a sword in hand, he can't get a clean swing because the guy's just too massive. The only way to handle this is to get up close so that sword becomes useless, but every step closer just makes things riskier. Grabbed Ash's attack like it was nothing and shot him a sideways smirk. It was pretty clear he thought Ash had no clue what he was doing with a sword. Before anyone could even react, his elbow drove hard into Ash's ribs. He barely had a second to react before another blade came flying at him. Ash didn't even think, his body just reacted. He popped straight up with a smooth kip up right as the blade slid by, barely missing him. People standing nearby couldn't believe what they were seeing. Stone floors, dull blades, nothing looked dangerous. Some dude started to wonder if this was just a ghost or something. Just rolled his eyes like he couldn't believe everyone was acting surprised. For him, a sorcerer using a spirit in a fight was just normal stuff, nothing special at all. No matter how much someone tries to hold them back, they always find a way to break free and level up. Even if their hands and feet are tied, they'll still find a way to rise. He watched as the elven sword miracle went off. The mountain breaker slash just hit different. No way, just pulled off a miracle out of nowhere. Nobody thought he could actually do that. Lost his patience and basically told everyone to pay attention. He made it clear that using a spirit and pulling off a miracle weren't even close to being the same thing. Pulling off a miracle takes a squad of spirits working together, all locked in. It's crazy hard, just making it happen at all is already next level. He's lost count of how many times he's tried to get out of this place, but every single attempt flopped, not even close. Everyone could tell Ash wasn't holding back anymore. He was all in, ready to end it. No one expected to find anything left of his opponent, just dust and scraps if that. Everyone in the crowd lost it. Nobody could believe he was still standing. Even with the power cranked way down, it was wild that he made it through. If someone can't even handle a sword, this thing's still gonna take them out. Ash squinted, trying to focus. He realized he could finally figure out where his opponent's blade was going. The sword maiden actually knew what she was doing in a fight. Right from the start, he was struggling just to keep up with sword moves. Now he can spot when the next punch is coming just by watching a little shoulder movement. Dodging finally feels natural to him now. Couldn't help but notice it. This looked just like that wild fight with the beast woman from the day before. Ash was out here picking up sword skills right in the middle of a brawl, like he was leveling up on the spot. Just glared annoyed. He thought this place was more like a prison than some spot for smart people. It was messing with him and he hated it. Glared totally unfazed, making it clear he didn't see the other guy as any real threat. Ash swiped the sweat off his forehead, keeping his game face on. He was locked in, losing just wasn't an option for him. Raised one eyebrow, clearly curious about what was up. He wanted to know why. Ash gave a small smile, almost like he was trying to play it cool. In his head, he kept wondering who was actually behind this. Was it pulling the strings? Who sent someone after him? Ash started thinking maybe getting locked up was never just bad luck, but part of something bigger. Held back for a second, not saying anything. He kind of wondered what winning even had to do with any of this. Maybe it mattered, maybe it didn't. Even if he explained, would anyone really know if he was telling the truth? Ash sounded serious. He knew he couldn't just get the answer by asking. He thought if he could win, the truth would come out way clearer than just talking about it. Started laughing, loud and kind of ruthless, and the sound bounced off the walls in the cell block. For real, he hadn't heard anyone give such a straightforward reason since his days back at the orphanage. He threw his arms out wide, acting like he was performing for a crowd no one else could see. In his head, he pictured people in the future talking about this moment. How Ash, the guy who never even picked up a sword before, took down a cocky elven swordsman and started a streak no one could touch. Leaned forward, giving Mr. Ash a bow that was all for show. Deep down, he was just messing around, pretending to be humble. He was hoping Ash would remember his name and maybe even drop it in his life story someday. Didn't mind being the clown in Ash's story as long as people kept talking about him. Out of nowhere, a flash from a sword ripped through the field. Ash caught some of it, blood showed up on his cheek and leg. Looked at him with a smug grin, noticing right away that he was starting to lose steam. Sure, the guy had made some real progress, but could tell he was running out of gas. Blood had been dripping since the fight kicked off, and now, it was obvious he was getting tired way quicker. His head started to feel foggy, like he couldn't think straight. His body just wasn't keeping up, everything slowing down. The reason the guy kept running his mouth was pretty clear. Every second that passed, he was bleeding more, and things were only getting worse. He lifted his sword, his voice cutting through the air. This was it, Mr. Ash's run had officially ended. Suddenly, this insane flash of sword light burst right in front of Ash, lighting everything up. The ground couldn't handle it and just cracked wide open. Back then, Ash figured this was as far as he could push himself. Out of nowhere, his eyes popped open wide. It was like something inside him just switched on. Out of nowhere, the Sword Maiden's voice popped into his head, almost like a memory from way back. She once said that if things get painful, just act like it's not even happening to you. Suddenly, the pain feels lighter. Ash zoned out for a second as old memories ran through his head. Out of nowhere, her advice finally made sense to him. If you just act like the pain's not yours, it doesn't hit as hard. Her voice kept playing over in his mind. He remembered her saying that knowledge can't be held back. No matter how much you try to tie it down, it always finds a way to break free and take off. Ash tightened his grip on his sword and sprinted ahead. Figured the fight was done. Out of nowhere, a dark shape jumped out. The blade caught the light and flashed right in front of his eyes, making them go wide. Ash's sword went straight through his chest, just stopped, stuck in place. He couldn't believe what just happened. His face said it all as he dropped, taken out in an instant. The whole arena went quiet. A moment later, the winner got called out. Ash took the win. Ash was totally spent and just dropped right after that. He blinked awake and saw that the same woman was still right there, standing over him. She told him not to move. If he wanted to keep his face looking normal, he should just keep his eyes closed. Ash quickly ran his hand over his face, yep, both eyes, nose, mouth, everything in place. Alright, he was still good. She let out this loud sigh, totally extra. She was helping him out, fixing him up, and couldn't believe he was doubting her. Ash pointed at her, not totally joking, but not all serious either, locking eyes and pretty much calling her out, wondering if she had secretly got some work done. She paused for a second, kind of embarrassed, and admitted she'd only made a super minor tweak. That whole druid skin thing just cleared up some wrinkles on her forehead, nothing wild. She stood up taller, looking pretty proud of herself. Honestly, she figured he should be grateful. Out in the real world, those druid spells for wiping out wrinkles cost a fortune. Ash slapped his hand on his forehead, totally freaking out. He couldn't believe it, someone really took away his most manly forehead wrinkle while he was knocked out. He thought it was wild that a doctor could just mess with a guy's face in his sleep and basically rob him of his best feature. Ash was convinced this had to break some rule or something. It felt like straight-up malpractice, maybe even a crime for cash. He stuck his hand out, basically asking for money. The woman kind of freaked out, trying to figure out what he wanted. She pulled out just one gold coin, hoping it'd be enough since she didn't have anything smaller. Ash checked out the coin in his hand, realizing that around here, silver coins basically got handed out like spare change to beggars. He thought to himself, remembering that Sword Maiden always said spirits wanted coins. He started wondering how he was supposed to get any cash when all he could do was try to hustle some spare change from people who barely had any themselves. Ash looked at the woman and brought up something random. He wanted to know if there was anywhere in the prison where people could trade spirits. Being stuck alone was starting to get to him, and honestly, he just wanted a pet to keep him company. She turned completely pale and started yelling. She was convinced he was up to something and instantly accused him of trying to pull some escape move, saying she was reporting him for messing with spirits. Ash freaked out and grabbed her shoulders, totally stressing. In his head, he was already thinking about how he was basically done for, like, already facing a death sentence, so what else could she even do to him at this point? Throw more charges on top just for fun. She pulled away fast, clearly done with being grabbed. She wasn't about to answer his questions and made it clear she saw guys like him as nothing more than test subjects. Once they were used up, that was it for them. Ash glanced at her, looking like he felt bad for her. He wondered if she'd even trust him if he said he didn't do anything. She rolled her eyes, not buying it for a second. Ever since they started using memories as evidence, almost nobody gets blamed for stuff they didn't do. The hunting bureau probably grabbed proof straight out of his head to put the case together. Ash jumped up, not holding back. He knew the hunting bureau never pulled memories from his head, and he was sure the reports would back him up. There was nothing about that anywhere. He knew he hadn't done anything wrong. She paused for a second, looking him dead in the eye, trying to figure out if he was actually telling the truth. Ash just shrugged, trying to play it cool with a fake smile. He hadn't even figured out time pay in this life, so there was no way he'd be out here lying. She froze up, eyes cold, and let him know she wasn't messing around. If he was lying, things were about to get real for him. She pretty much promised he wouldn't come out the same if he ended up in her hands. She'd switch up everything, no limits, not even who he was. She finally laid it all out. Trading spirits wasn't as easy as just asking, there were rules. The seller had to let the spirit go using arcane power power and the buyer needed that same power to bring it back. But for death row guys like him, their powers were locked down tight. No way to set spirits free, no way to bring them back. Basically, he was stuck. Ash sighed, kind of bummed out. Looked like there wasn't some wild, no-rules arena where they could just drop all the limits. From what he saw last night, hunting down a specific spirit in that huge virtual world would take forever. There was a way for him to get rid of his restriction. He just had to join the Blood Moon Judgment. When guys on death row get thrown into the Blood Moon Judgment, the prison basically drops all the usual restrictions. Suddenly, they can control spirits using some wild magic. Trading is supposed to be on the table at that point, but honestly, barely anyone ever manages to make it work. She looked annoyed, like she couldn't believe he needed an explanation. She figured he should already know what the Blood Moon Judgment was. He'd seen it happen before. He wasn't buying any of it. Stuff like that just didn't get past him. He knew when someone was trying to mess with him, and he wasn't about to play along. She started to leave, but Ash suddenly wanted to know if had made it out of that duel alive. She looked confused, like she didn't get why anyone would even bring it up. She wondered why he cared. Was he actually worried about the guy? Honestly, the other dude barely got hurt and dipped out a while back. Ash shrugged, looking a bit uncomfortable. He thought it sounded kinda lame to admit, but honestly he did care a little. After all, this was the first person he ever took out. She blinked, not really believing what she just heard. Was this guy seriously the first one? Was she actually hoping he'd make it out alive or not? Ash just kept it real. He wasn't out here wishing the guy was gone for good. If he ever needed to let off steam, he'd way rather smack him around with some goofy G-Duck bat and get his answers that way. Straight up, Ash didn't want the dude dead. If he ends up dying, he'll just think about life for a bit before knocking out for the night. Life's kind of like an ocean. Only the ones who tough it out make it all the way. So honestly, even if the guy's gone, he's not losing sleep over it. The woman backed off a bit and finally let it slide. She could almost believe this really was his first time taking someone out. She stared him down, not even trying to hide how annoyed she was. That line wouldn't get him any support, no matter where he tried. If he dropped it in the case updates, maybe some groups would see him as soft and feel bad for him. But if he acted tough, the crowd might actually back him up. Trying to play it safe in the middle, though, just had everyone hating on him. Ash started thinking about it for a second, wondering if there were really that many people out there who just go all in without hesitating. He couldn't help but question if most people struggled to make up their minds the same way he did. A little while later, the woman walked back into the lounge. She swung the door open and saw two lines of people, all wearing the same outfit, just standing there. Right in the middle, there was an orc with a fish head just kneeling on the ground. A masked attendant showed up, bowed, and let her know that he'd been caught watching her healing process. Turns out he tried to swipe some research from the institute without asking. That's straight up against the rules. Everyone knows you can't mess with someone else's stuff. What he did was definitely illegal. She never planned on taking out the fish guy. Honestly, he never bothered her enough for her to want him gone. But if something happened and he didn't make it, she wouldn't be up all night thinking about it. She told them to grab a club shaped like a geoduck and start swinging until he was covered in welts. No patching him up, just kick him out. Since he was a blue-scaled fisherman, she figured the finger sharks wouldn't take him out. They were planning to throw him into the ocean that night and see if he could make it back on his own. He didn't even argue, just said he was done and went to chill, leaving everyone else to figure things out on their own. She walked into her own chill spot and pulled off her hood. Underneath, she had bright white hair and sharp red eyes that stood out.